the Old Man Orange podcast. Our friend just got home.
I'm right on
What do you got there? Peace tea?
Oh, peach tea. Yeah, yeah. It's the very flamboyant. They didn't have. Basically they have the Arnold Palmer kind, which is just it's called Caddyshack tea because I guess they can't afford the rights to the likeness. So instead, like the next one they had was pink lemonade tea. So now I just have this really flamboyant, like excuse me, coming through. Yeah, I know
Adelaide,
not okay.
tea coming through. I
I know
got
not
like
all.
this ginormous thing of tea in a Pepsi fill-up can from the gas station.
I thought like, what's Spencer doing drinking Pepsi? Okay, whatever. I'm not going to question it, but no.
People always ask me that. They're like, dude, are you drinking a giant Pepsi? It's like, no, it's just...
That's so not like you right there.
Yeah, I mean, like, people stop me on the street. Dude, that's not fucking you. Slaps it on my hands. Like, dude, that was tea. Oh, my bad. Starts, like, picking it up.
Shuffling it back in there. It's all, I guess, like pebbles
dirt
and little,
and
like leaves and shit.
Oil.
One of your workout buddies. I'm sorry, bro. Here, I'll buy you a protein, like, protein shake later or some shit.
Well, I watched this movie that for many of years I never watched, but was always slightly curious about. One of those ones where nobody ever pandered it well or nicely, or I never even heard a somewhat decent review on, but I thought I'd give it a shot anyway.
Before you even finish it, I already know you liked it. Because that's how these stories always end. I already know you liked it. Because it's like, everyone talks shit on this thing. I actually thought it was kind of good. So, what
and there's already somebody, like, listening that's going to be like, oh, fuck, here it goes again. Spencer's going to give a positive review on a movie that we're all supposed to hate. Oh, I'm not going to say this movie was anything amazing. Or, good. Maybe decent or okay can be a fine describing words. I don't think god-awful goes underneath it. But I watched that Dragon Ball Evolution movie, finally.
Oh, fuck you! Fuck you!
Okay, well, here's the thing. I don't think it's a good movie whatsoever. But it is one of those ones, like, it reminds me... If that movie would have came out, like, in 97, I know in America people would be like, what is Dragon Ball at this point? Because the only way you could get them is, like, from Viz Video on VHS. But I think it might have worked at that time period. I think when it came out, though, it was, like, so far along that they should have put a little bit more effort into it. But I will say, for, like, just because, like, I guess because I'm going to this movie, like...
Just fucking go ahead.
It's almost, like, 10 years after that movie's come out. Maybe not that long, but close to it. So I've heard just nothing but bad stuff about this movie since then. So all I'm expecting is going, like, it's going to be bad, but, I'm not, like, expecting it to be an amazing movie. Because I think when you, like, walk into it, like, day one, everybody's like, oh, dude, live-action Dragon Ball Z movie? It's going to be the coolest fucking thing ever!
No, not me, because I heard about little things they were talking about and saying while the movie was being made. And it's kind of like, you know what? I don't have high expectations, but I'm just going to hope for the best. I'm really going to hope for the best, because this movie took like almost 10, 15 years to get made. So when it was finally coming out and you're finally seeing trailers for it, like, well, I don't know, but we'll see. I'm going to hope for the best. And sure enough, I went in there with, like, I'm not going to say cautious optimism, but just very neutral. And I'll be honest, this is the only time I actually I might have, I'm not going to say I did, I might have watched it, not in the theaters, but a link somewhere online in a public library. So I'll say, well, because it went to Japan before it went to America. So,
well, you weren't really doing anything wrong because there was no other way to see it, technically, at that moment.
Well, I could have, and my thing is like, you know what? I'm hypothetically speaking, maybe I did that, but but my thought was, you know what? If I liked it, I will go to theaters, and when it comes to America, and watch it in theaters. Yeah, I'll pay to see if I liked it. But it was sure enough, it was just kind of like quick cash grab, throw the bare minimal amount of money you need to make this movie, and then like just throw it out there because it has a brand name to it that a lot of people like, and just it was a piece of shit.
Like, it's one of those ones, like, I will say it was slightly enjoyable in kind of like a dumb
ironic kind of way. This is one of those kind of ways where you're
Yeah,
just
it's
like
like
shitty, just being kind of like shitty and kind of like cynical. Because usually, I mean, I'll say that we try to be like optimistic and positive about things we like, and even if things do bad, we just like, well, at least it did this right and that right. But every once in a while, you can't help it. There's gonna be those one or two things where you're just like, oh my god, it's such a stupid piece of shit. Can you believe this? It's gonna be those one or two things that make you feel that way.
well, it's one of those kind of movies where like I'm not gonna say like I sat there like arms crossed like this is pissing me off. I am not having fun. It was one of those movies where it was kind of dumb, but it wasn't like I wasn't having fun or it wasn't at least slightly enjoyable. In a sense, I've seen worse movies. I think that like a movie that's worse than this one, as far as like in something in a similar category, Legend of Chun-Li.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because here's the thing. Okay, yeah, the weird thing is like, but like Goku's being white, but I kind of like, okay, I already knew that going in, so I just accepted it instantly. It was just okay. I'm not gonna sit here and complain about what's not there.
Goku, the white guy. Yeah.
And it's kind of a weird, dopey looking white. Like that guy almost could have been. He's like reminds me of somebody who could have played like Peter Parker or something like that. Goku,
You know who that was?
It's
You know
the
who-
guy
you know
that's
who-
in. He's in he's Tom Cruise's son.
War of the Worlds. Yeah,
Yeah.
Justin Chatwin. Yeah.
Yeah, so somebody we didn't like from the beginning, but you want to talk about a person I hate? That kid in fucking War of the Worlds. But okay, and then like yes, Goku kind of going to high school and me and Chi-Chi there. At least the upside of that high school stuff is that it was only really in like the beginning for just like 2 or 3 scenes. Like I literally thought the movie was going to be like all high school almost. But I guess
Goku's Creek.
it kind of gets like I mean if it gets like the bare bone concepts of Dragon Ball down, I mean it's got pretty much the main characters from Dragon Ball in it. They're all going out to collect Dragon Balls. They're going to wish to the dragon, even though when the dragon comes out, it does not look nearly as cool as it should. You know,
It looked like something kind of like the preset like drag. It looks like if you went to like some kind of like online After Effects like model shop or something. It looks like what they got there. Maybe just spruced it up with some Adobe After Effects. You know, it doesn't really. It looked like the
like
default
a template,
model.
like here mess with this like anime dragon, just to get your drawings down or whatever, like one of those kind of
Or it's
things.
like if you go on like you know if you go to like some 3D modeling site like Daz 3D, and you're like, okay, here's a dragon, Asian dragon 25. Okay, go with that. Load that in there. It almost looks kind of like that, you know?
Yeah, kind of like when you're messing around with Anime Studio, you're like, let me see one of these like pre-made
Presets,
characters.
yeah.
What would they do that I can like steal from? And you're
Exactly.
like, oh, they did it like that or this, but somebody said, you know what, we could draw our own Shenlong, but somebody else already put the effort into it. Let's just buy it for $100 from them to use the licensing.
The one thing I think that was kind of cool that they sort of gave a shit about in that movie was I don't remember the guy's name because like the cast of Dragon Ball, it's like roughly 4 people doing like 10 voices each, and the voice of Shenron was the guy who voiced it in the Funimation cartoon. That was about the Funimation dub. So that's it, really. Everything else, I mean, and I think Chow Yun Fat did a good job, but beyond Chow Yun Fat, everybody else was just kind of like, I mean,
well, Chow Yun Fat just seems like it's like we got Chow Yun.
He didn't seem like Roshi.
3 days. He just shows up, put on this Hawaiian shirt. Okay, you're in costume. Like I feel like okay, if that movie, if they like Chow Yun Fat, if they said like, hey, like this is a real serious movie, and they put the effort into it, and they had him grow a fucking beard out, and put on the dark sunglasses, and just be like, if he just took it to like the next level, I think he actually could be a sweet Master Yoshi. But it is literally that one like, it reminds me almost like a high school movie. Like, okay, we got Chow Yun Fat for 3 days. He's RJ's uncle. One of those kind of things. Like he said he would show by and let us do this, Biker Joe and Frankie J 3 movie that involves them meeting Dragon Ball Z characters. No.
You're pulling back the high school shit that only you and I know.
Yeah, nobody else knows. Just like whipping stuff out. But like it sort of reminds me of that. And you just kind of said like, okay, just whip on this Hawaiian shirt. That's all you need.
Well, the sad thing is like James Masters, who plays, he's kind of like a big like, he's like a big like he has a big cult following because he was in Buffy and all that. He played Piccolo, and he was a huge Dragon Ball fan, and he just wanted to be part of it, hoped it would do good, and he starts off as
Piccolo guy is actually from Sonora, or he has a house somewhere in here.
He has a son. Here's a little interesting thing. He has a son.
He actually doesn't own any. Well, he owns a boy that lives in the area. Just dropped off.
He has a son and that son actually lives somewhere in the area and of Sonora. And one of our friends, Marshall, was actually his guitar teacher for a little while. So that's a
So
fun
this
little
the
fact.
kid just lives here. Like dad doesn't visit me often. He played piccolo and said that I
He just
could.
flies in. He just flies in with his piccolo powers. Yeah. Or in like a flying fortress from Dragon Ball, like the original series.
And then like, well, it's like one of the characters I didn't think was actually too bad was the one that played Bulma.
Oh yeah.
I'm
I don't
not
know.
saying it's like an amazing performance, but if compared to the one that was like not very good was the the Yamcha guy. That was the one that was a little hard to muster.
Oh, that was I'm sorry. I'm coming in here. I just got done. I had to go ride to my main location of my job all the way down in Fisherman's Wharf to grab my check and ride back. So I'm already a little tired. Then I got to come in and have this fucking talk. Like I just wasn't prepared for this, you know.
I wrote this
All
down
right, well
actually for
that
like one of the
guy.
last episodes, but then we had so much other fun stuff to talk about that it was like kind of bypassed. But I was like, you know what? I just gotta say out there, as I said, like it's not a good movie, but it's I just don't think it's like the worst one. Like you
It's
know,
not the worst
and
movie, but I just
and it gets some of the. As I feel like okay, if it did come out like in the mid '90s when we could have like, you know, in a sense tolerated like be like, well, this is like one of the first live action anime movies, like that's okay. I think it's just at the time period it came out in. It was one of those ones. Not like every movie was still perfect at that point because they still were making things like Legend of Chun Li and other kind of video game ones where they didn't go the whole way. I know it's not video game, but like anime movies sometimes feel like they're in the same
same
category as video game movies.
same demographic basically.
It sounds weird. Like I feel they're closer to video game movies than they are to comic book movies, even though I know that they're realistically closer to comics than they are video games. But you know what I mean. It feels like the way that they treat them in the U.S. and Europe, I guess, is they treat them in that same style. Like they don't put it together in the graphic novel section. It's like that's in the the weird Japanese crazy white kid section.
Yeah,
You know all
it's
those
like one of those.
like those children that half of us have that are wearing the strange rabbit. I don't know what fucking ears they are, but God, and the long trench coat and the
Potential Columbine kids. Yeah,
yeah
this is what it's made for. That's the way they view it. Give them something to hold them back for a little while longer. Yeah.
yeah.
No, like this, that movie. Here's my big thing with it, because I remember being like, I think it was the seventh or eighth grade, and when the internet was still kind of new, and actually going to DragonBallZ.com, because back
That's what
then,
you
just
just
that's like
typed in.
what are the things I know? Okay, insert name dot
.com.
com. That's yeah. You remember like taking like I was on lunch in like seventh or eighth grade in the library, like DragonBallZ.com. Like Dragon Ball Z is getting made a movie. What? I remember it said like the studio that brought you Star Wars and like Star Wars and the X-Men series and a bunch of other great science fiction
An
movies is gonna
easy
make
rider.
Dragon Ball an easy, yeah, and or like some like an Easy Rider. I mean, it said like a bunch of science fiction names, which makes sense. But what if it just said like worked its way to like more like intense films, like in Blade Runner, an Easy Rider?
It's just like what? Like how does that go together with the Dragon Ball Z thing? I don't know.
It's just part. It's just part of their portfolio of good fucking movies, which at this point they're starting to kind of go downhill. No, but I remember like looking forward to that, and then for like the next like 7 years waiting for the movie to come out. And then I'm like, well, I guess it's never coming out. Then word was they actually are making it. And then slowly, I was seeing stills and the trailer came out. And I was like, oh, wow, this doesn't look that good, but hopefully it comes out. And I think this is right when that period, because there was a period when like 20th Century Fox, because now they're sort of doing a good job again if you exclude Fantastic Four, but they're for a while like all their big like all their stuff that everyone like liked them for, which was Alien, X-Men, like changed all their big like iconic like science fiction movies. We're all starting to kind of go downhill. This is one of those movies, and that's kind of where they kind of backed away. Like, okay, we gotta stop like looking at these things as products and actually maybe like get people to give a shit. That's when they redid Planet of the Apes. They gave a really good Predator movie, which a lot of people didn't see, but it was really fucking good. And then
Well, we got
Prometheus
Prometheus.
came out. which you and me and a handful of other people like
Yeah, people
Prometheus.
just, it's
But
just
I
like,
mean,
and it still gets hated on. Like, I remember somebody on a podcast was all like, why are they even working on Prometheus? Like, who cares? Too. It's like, that's fucking stupid. Like, let's just, like, make, like, a real good Ridley Scott movie. And it's just like, really? It's like, dude, come on. Like, I mean, like, I can see if you didn't think Prometheus was maybe amazing, but I just don't understand how you can't think that it's at least a good movie. And
I
I
could
think
say
it's a
there's like
full-on amazing one, but that's just me. Like, I actually,
I
it's up there with Aliens. I think it's that good.
I really like it. I need to see it again. I haven't seen it since the theaters, but I remember really liking it. But I remember there was just like two or three things where I was like, all right, that's kind of stupid, but it's not like it destroyed the movie for me because everything else kind of the good definitely outweighed the bad for me.
That was one of those weird
But
movies where we said before, but like some of those things that seemed kind of stupid almost made the movie better. I don't know.
just like unintentionally kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, we made the GPS signal, but even though like you can't somehow relay the signal to us, so the geologist and the nerdy guy get lost in the maze. It's like, hey, there's something breathing down there. There's something breathing down. Where? Like, I don't fucking know. It's heading towards your direction. How do we get out of here? You set up the GPS, motherfucker. Oh, well, let's go this way. Oh, look, a fucking a face hugger snake thing. Let me grab it. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Oh, you know. So it's like that kind of shit was. I'm not gonna lie, that was really fucking stupid. But in some weird way,
it almost makes it more enjoyable than like it should have.
yeah, and like that's really, as far as I'm concerned, that's like really the only. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's maybe as good as Alien or Aliens, but it's still like enjoyable and like that right there. Like maybe kind of took away from it in some way, but kind of added to it in another way. So, so anyway, as I was saying though, like 20th Century Fox started making like good science fiction movies again, started letting them just. I think this movie, because like so many people are mad about this movie. I think the reason why I don't like it so much is just because it was like, all right, the rights are about to run out. Let's just crank this thing out real quick. And I mean, this is just stuff you overhear, but you just hear kind of like some of the reasons why they made changes that they did. Like, okay, we're making Goku in high school because we don't want young American boys to like idolize a backwoods idiot without education. Oh, we're also taking out Krillin because we don't think he's a marketable character. We're
All
also, just
children
all
not
that kind of shit.
marketable.
Yeah, yeah, bald. Like not even he could have been like a bald, like like they were talking about. I remember back when maybe it was just kind of like a pipe dream thing. They were talking about the guy that played Mini Me to play Krillin, which I'm almost having trouble imagining that now. Because, like getting that guy on wires, going like firing fireballs at each other, doing.
That's if Mel Brooks made the Dragon Ball Z movie. That's the only way. If Dragon Ball Z was like a parody movie like that, that's the only way I could see that would work out. Because Krillin's supposed to be short, but not like a midget.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess it's one of those things. Maybe people thought he was supposed to be a midget because even when like when he becomes like basically best friends with Gohan, like he almost is like he.
Well,
I've
little
met taller.
Adults though that are like the same height as like a 10-year-old person. They're not midgets. They're just people that are about 5 foot tall.
So I don't know. That movie was just. I mean, I guess I kind of went into it kind of like already neutral and then walked out like, oh, it's unfortunately what I expected, but whatever. I mean, I wasn't like, I disliked it, but I wasn't like fuming. I just went there expecting it, but just the more I heard about it after the fact of like, it's just rumors, but still just some of the shit you hear, just like, really? That's, I don't know.
It's funny because like for me, I've noticed this. If a movie gets so much like, or it goes with almost anything, you go with video game and stuff like that too. If somebody goes, "This is like the worst thing ever," like it's instantly gonna boost my morale on it. It's, or it can work vice versa. If somebody goes, "This is the greatest movie ever," or "This person's the best actor ever," then I almost kind of go, "Yeah, they're okay." Like it just instantly brings it down. I don't know why that is, but for some reason I just got this thing like I don't want to be part of the majority. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not too sure. Like mentally, that's how it's working out.
Is that like almost where you're like teenage rebellion streak or something like that? Kind of like, fuck you, Dad. Dragon Ball Evolution was awesome.
Well, it's almost like that sort of thing where everybody's like, Jennifer Lawrence is like the best actress ever, and it's like, I remember like the first couple movies I seen, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a pretty good actress, but now it's kind of like, she's good. Like I'm not gonna say more than that. Like I don't know, it's nothing off her, but I think it's just that like over saturation of her really everywhere. Hate. That's kind of like, don't go anything against her, but not the most amazing thing ever. I've seen better. And you start getting that attitude going.
I mean, I like Jennifer Lawrence. I got no problem with. I'm not. It's not
I
like
was gonna say,
like,
I don't get a problem with her, but I'm just
J
like,
Law's in the movie. Shit, it's not like that. But it's like,
yeah,
she's good. But I mean, it's. I know the one you really fucking hate is Scarlett Johansson. She doesn't bother me. But I know that
yeah,
whenever everyone else loves her, and you're
yeah,
just kind of.
like
You'll like
freaking
you begrudgingly will go see a Marvel movie, like, because if it's not a Marvel movie and she's in it, chances are you'll skip out on it. But I
yeah.
know the one thing I know, if we go see a Marvel movie and like Scarlett Johansson's going to be in, I'm like, well, that's automatically, this movie's already going to be like, this is not going to be a perfect movie to him by default because she's in
Sadly
there.
enough, it's like it will always bring down the movie by at least a half point.
Well, you know what? Captain America was almost a perfect movie until I'm like,
Almost.
yeah.
But if they would just thrown Miss Marvel in there instead, that could have changed everything.
She'll be in it pretty soon. They're already talk. I think they said Charlize Theron might be playing her. I'm
That's what I
not sure
heard,
if that's
yeah.
which that's pretty cool if she is, you know. But
Yeah.
I mean, I can't keep it straight anymore. Like, I think Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel are the same character, but I really don't know. I thought it was like a different variation or
Well,
something.
no,
But
Captain Marvel's a male, and Miss Marvel, or no, Captain Marvel can be.
he was a
Well,
man. I
because
think there's
America's
different.
like, I was reading like these '80s once, and like Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel was a black lady.
There is right now Miss Marvel. I don't know. I know it's a very highly. I know it's a very. A lot of people really like it right now. Captain Marvel is a girl. It's a Pakistani girl. She has stretchy powers, and there's other stuff. And apparently, it's really getting really good reviews. I haven't read any of it, but I heard good things about it. And Miss Marvel was always Carol Danvers, and I'm not sure if that's who Charlize Theron's playing. I'm
I
assuming
think
it's
so.
Carol Danvers. Yeah, and that was where it was the black one piece with the domino mask and blonde hair.
Yeah,
So
and that's the one that like Rogue, you know, in the good old days, Rogue just absorbed this lady, put her in a coma, and we never saw her since then.
then eventually she came back like, all right, where's that fucking Southern bitch? Where the fuck is she? You know?
I remember like it was funny because like in the Deadpool video game, like when they showed Rogan and stuff, he's like, okay, now I know all you like new comic book fans go, Rogue doesn't have flying powers and stuff like that. He's like, but let's just bear in mind, let's just go with the old school way when she absorbed Miss Marvel. Because that's
Yeah,
like,
they actually
well, yeah,
stopped to acknowledge that.
yeah, he stopped acknowledging because because I guess anybody who's kind of like a little bit more of a classic fan, it's like, well, yeah, of course Rogue can fly and she's got super strength and all this stuff. Which Rogue, like, when you kind of take that away, it's like, well, what the fuck does she do then? Oh, okay, she can grab somebody and absorb their powers for a little bit, but then she's kind of almost she becomes a sort of a useless character without like absorbing Miss Marvel's powers.
I think that they're probably, it's one of those things like people saw the movie and they just assume that's all she can do. And the cartoons and whatever haven't brought in like another character that she could absorb like that, or the newer like variations of comics from maybe haven't had that either. So people are like, where's this shit with her flying around having super strength? And I think that's where people get confused about it.
Well, because it's like the Ultimate X-Men series and the movies just don't have it where she's absorbed anybody.
Yeah. I mean, well,
really, if she was like a supervillain, like Rogue would just absorb like all kinds of people, put them in a coma, and just like take their powers, and then she would just be this creature that had like all kinds of different powers.
she almost seems kind of like she would be a supervillain. I mean, just kind of like a tragic supervillainous kind of thing. Like she doesn't have the power. She can't like it's almost maybe like what's his name? Like a Tetsuo kind of thing. Like she was somebody kind of pushed around most of her life, and then she got these powers. She can't really control them, and then she starts to absorb all this power, and then loses it and becomes this big villain. And some part she's all screaming "Kaneda" or whatever. But it almost seems kind of like that's almost the setup for the character. But they make her just a good old Southern girl at the end of the day.
Yeah. But well, yeah, Dragon Ball Evolution. I think it's just okay.
I think it's a piece of shit, but that's me.
It's one of those ones, like, I guess because it's kind of hard when there's just, like, there's just a little bit of good stuff in there. Like, not enough to make it, like, a god-awful film. Like, as I said, like, it's more like, maybe because, like, I like Dragon Ball Z so much, and you know that it's not that good, so it makes it kind of fun and funny at the same time. I get this, like, weird, like, the enjoyment is not like, man, this was, like, really well done. It's just more kind of like, it's so kind of silly and dumb that almost like how the Double Dragon movie is, even though I like that one way more than this. But
We
that's
got nostalgia to that. Maybe if I grew up with this movie, that I'd feel a little different. But since I was already kind of like in college when this movie came out, I'm just like, fuck it.
well, I did think about that movie though. Like when I was watching Dragon Ball Evolution, it's one of those movies I'm like, if I was 8 years old, I probably would have thought this movie was really sweet. Like I think like if that movie was shown to me, like I'm just gonna say when I first got into Dragon Ball Z like in '97, I think if that movie was shown to me like then or like the next year, I bet you I would have actually liked it a lot. Just at that age range. I think when you're kind of an adult, and plus once you've seen a copious amount of Dragon Ball Z stuff, and you've seen other movies that do kind of something similar to this better, then you're kind of like, eh. But that's kind of how I look at it. If it's kind of dumb, silly, it almost, I don't know, it gives this weird thing that's not like I'm saying it's a good one, but it reminds me like one of those movies where like you could get together with a bunch of friends and then just laugh and have a good
Junk
time.
Food Cinema will not do an episode on it. I know that much.
No, they're sometimes a little too picky on things, but
This isn't really well. I'm just gonna say there's that one part of the movie where it's just like, what happens? Oh yeah, Yamcha. He's a bandit. He just kind of sits there like, hey, you guys are in my pit. What you gonna do about it? Like, all right, well, we got 3 days or whatever the fuck before the end of the world happens. So, and like the whole time they're just sitting there like, all right, what are we gonna do? And then Roshi, I don't remember what triggers it, but for whatever reason, he just hops right out of the fucking hole. Just says, okay, you could have done that the whole time? Yeah, I could have. I was just biding my time or whatever the fuck. It's just like, you have 3 fucking days, and you spent half of it in a fucking hole talking to some asshole with like bleached blonde hair, you know.
Why?
Like, I gotta fucking let. Yeah.
That was that haircut where there's like, why does he have that?
Because it's an anime movie, and it has to be over the top, even though he has fucking black hair in the fucking show. I think that guy is a big like Japanese pop star, and I think that was like his look. And I mean I might be wrong.
I
here,
ain't changed my look for a movie.
He's been in multiple things. He was like a background guy somewhere. He was like one of the weird wacky racers you see somewhere in the background of Speed Racer, and I think he's like I saw him in something else. He always has white hair. I think it's one of those things. He's like a J-pop star, and it's like yeah, that's just his look, so he can't change it or something. And they thought, well, if we get this guy in there, maybe people will come see it, you know?
They just gotta do one anime movie like totally right, and then I think that could like bring them back. That you go, okay, now these things can be done. Let's put some money into them. Let's, because I think you could make those anime series. Now I know they don't have the nostalgia. See, like the thing that works, the thing with comics is at least the thing about comic books is they're pretty much just about older than most people that are alive that are still watching movies. So it kind of works out that way. Where these anime ones, even if they are sort of older, there's only like a 20-year period of these things really kind of being around. And I think that makes them hard sell to people.
Well, even in Japan, anime movies have still kind of a reputation. Like Japanese, like when I say Japanese anime movies, I mean they're literally the Japanese live-action adaptations of anime. Those usually even have a bad reputation there because
one of the ones that was actually good from Japan that I liked it. I mean, not as much as the show or anything, but was the Death Note one.
I didn't see that. I'm curious after watching the Death Note series. I'm curious to know how they do it. That's what everybody says. Like, oh, Death Note wasn't that good, but I'm kind of curious to know how, in comparison, it is to the movie after watching the whole series.
It's pretty good. The only thing that I think that's kind of weird that they do is they take what's that guy's name? The guy who's flying around.
Light L.
No.
Oh, it's the Death Note guy, Riku, whatever his name is.
Yeah, they make him like a funky-looking CG character, which he should have been like in a costume. Even if he wasn't even floating, if he was just walking around, and they just should have did a guy in a cot. That was like the only thing though. It's like they cheapened out on that part, and it brought the quality kind of down. But I'll say this: the rest of it's actually pretty good. Now, once again, not as good as an anime because it's hard to get that. But it's not like it's bad. I feel like it kind of captures the whole essence of it. I mean, of course, it's going to be a little bit different. I think some people like expect a carbon copy. But if you go into it thinking that it's an adaptation, so on, and I think the movies, I didn't see 2 and 3 yet, but I think they start to kind of go their own little direction, which that's fine.
Yeah, I think one thing that, I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but what I hear about a lot of the live action adaptation anime movies is what they do is they try and just condense the whole series into a movie, or at least a whole season into a movie, which I think some of the problems, I think the reason why, bear with me here for a second, but I think the reason why a lot of superhero stuff works out is because they pick just certain moments from like roughly 40 to 70 years of history and just take little moments and pinpoint it and make their own story, where an anime It's more of like, chances are if it's an anime series, it probably has somewhere from like a 15 to 35 episode run, unless it's something like Dragon Ball Z, which went on for 800 episodes. But they only have so much to pull from, so they try and condense that all into like one movie, and it seems a little rushed, and it just seems like, oh, there's that character for a second, and I think that's maybe part of the problem. So it seems kind of like, all right, well, I'm just getting the abridged version, where, I mean, I guess it's kind of like maybe because you want it to be accurate, but at the same time you kind of, I guess you want it to seem a little fresh at the same time. And I think that's kind of one of the harder things to do with some anime stuff. I'll say it. I did see an anime movie that was really good. I know I talked about it briefly, and there's one time I talked about it in depth. It was one of the episodes where we had trouble with Skype, and it lost like a good portion of the conversation. The Rurouni Kenshin movie was really fucking.
Oh yeah, that's
the
right.
first one. I never saw 2 and 3, but the first one was really good. And what was interesting about that was, because that's one where I think back on it, and I've seen episodes, because I liked it a lot when I was a kid, but I went back and looked at certain ones, and it's one of those ones. It's not a bad show, but in some ways it was kind of more aimed at teenagers.
Well, it feels like the Samurai X versions of them seem a little bit more adult oriented, because I
Well,
got like that
with the
Samurai X, like the first anime movie or whatever they have of that one, and that one's really good. And it still I watched it not that long ago, and it still felt like it was an adult anime. It didn't feel like the kids kind of like, where I remember Rurouni Kenshin kind of felt.
It was very shonen.
Yeah, very. Where the Samurai X one, not at all. It was more like Cowboy Bebop.
Well, the thing about like, well, he's even like super melodramatic in some ways, but that was actually a prequel, because there was the whole thing where, because I don't really know and compare it, because it was originally a manga, then they made the anime series, and I don't really know how accurate one is to the other. But they went back and said, okay, well, we're going to go on his history, and since he had this very dark, violent history, it took a total 180 from the original show and made it way more darker, way more bleaker. You'd almost think you're watching something different if it wasn't for the names. Mm-hmm. And then later they kind of said, okay, well, the show ended before they had a chance to go on and do like the last couple books, as far as I understand. So remember, you saw Samurai X, right? You've seen Samurai X, the movie?
Yeah.
Remember the little brother who saw his sister die? He killed sister, that guy?
Uh-huh.
He comes back later, and he is like this. He's out for revenge for Kenshin. He's out because he killed, And I guess they never reached that point in the anime series. So what they did is they made another movie where it was just kind of like, it was almost kind of like the flashback episode. It was kind of like, remember this time, and they kind of, it's like they're in present day and they flash back. But it's all kind of in the same way Samurai X was. It's not the over the top animation or anything silly or wacky. It's all very serious. It's the same kind of animation style and storytelling Samurai X Love and Betrayal was. Mm-hmm. And then near the end, they like, oh, here's this little part we left out, and it was just Kenshin fighting. I think his name was Inishi or something like that. So yeah.
Huh.
But no, the one of the few ones that actually did do, as I was saying, was the Rurouni Kenshin live action movie, and that one was really good. And it was actually, they did take a lot of just big moments from from season 1 and just dropped it in there, but it kind of rearranged it in a way where it all fit very neatly. The only thing that really kind of felt out of place was Sanosuke was in there, and he just kind of comes in out of nowhere. But I guess at the same time, it would feel a little kind of like, where the fuck's Sanosuke if you didn't drop him in there? Because he's like the Knuckles to his Sonic, basically.
Yeah, you gotta have him in there at some point, so.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think that's all they gotta do is it's same with the video game movies too. It's just, they just gotta have that one big one. And I think what they're doing now is they're starting to work on some more kind of like European and American ones. Clearly the Japanese ones, other than Resident Evil, like have not pandered out as well as they wanted, but.
Well, they always seem to make a video game movie. It's like they'll do something like, we're gonna make Halo! And then all of a sudden like, oh, we kind of bitched out. And it's just like, that movie would have made so much fucking money if you just went along with it. Especially at that time,
too. Like, when that movie would have came out, because like, the thing about Halo, though, is Halo's not it's not the most popular game out there anymore. It's still really popular, but it's not number one. And it used to be. When they were going to make that movie, I mean, you could not have picked a better time for that to come out, because, you would have had Halo 3, I think just came out right before that, so it would have been like, so
it would have came out like on the heels of Halo 2 is when it would have came out.
Oh, I thought it was going to come out right around like when Halo 3 finally did.
Oh, actually, yeah, you're right. The news came out around like
Yeah.
right before Halo 2 came out, the news came out, and then so it would have come out around Halo 3, but then you're right. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it would have been. I mean, like that would have been like the best idea right there. That incident right there was the total make or break point for I think for video game movies, and I think it broke it for 10 years really. I'm gonna say it's about 10 years. You know, we barely have any video game movies. You know, and the ones we do have, like Resident Evil's like really the only big one left, because I guess the only other thing that came out like in that time period was the Prince of Persia one, which
Well, that was another one. They're like, we're doing a big one, but then it felt so safe and by the numbers, I guess.
yeah, it's like they just didn't put like some love
And
into it.
who's playing the Prince of Persia?
The
A white
whitest guy
guy
we
with a
know.
spray on tan. All the real Persians were people in the background getting shot in the ass with bows and arrows.
And then it's like they also did, Legend of Chun-Li, which we all know how that went. And
Yeah, it's like 9/11. We don't for like fans. Actually, no, that might be a little bit of a harsh comparison, but it's just kind of like it's too soon. It's too soon. We can't talk about fucking Legend of
Legend of
Chun-Li.
Chun-Li. I think these are just like that's a perfect example of having such high hopes for something and then like it just not really panning out.
We even lied to ourselves about how like we said it multiple times. We lied to ourselves because we drove all the way to Modesto to see it.
Drove two
Like
hours.
it wasn't that bad. I mean, it had elements, things about. Then like literally a month later, like no, fuck that movie. It was bad. It was fucking bad. There's no defending it.
Yeah, that was just one of those movies. It's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna say that there's, yeah, it's just one of those ones like total. Like I always think 1.5 star. Like I'm gonna give him credit just for at least trying.
Making
You know, it's that sort
at
of
some
thing.
point,
Like, well, Billy, you showed up to class, you put a scratch on your test. I think that's supposed to be your name. I'm not too sure. At least you did something. One of those kind of things.
it's one of those things like it was the girl from Smallville who played Lana Lang in that, and it's like
Wait,
I understand that girl. She's
you
like I don't know.
Chun-Li?
She
Lon
the girl
Lang.
played Chun.
I was
Yeah,
like,
she played. Yeah, the girl. I think is it. It's not Kristen. No, it's Kristen something. But because she played Lana Lang in Smallville, and it was one of those things where yeah, I mean, I looked it up online. She is like part Cantonese, but you could have just got someone who's full on Chinese because that's what really comes to mind when I think Chun Li. I don't think of someone who's
well,
like
that's the one
part
that
like
it
French
bothers
Canadian,
me,
part can.
and it's bothered me for like 30 years in movies because they've done it for a long time. Where whenever they have like an Asian character, they always get somebody who's like half or a quarter Asian, or at least for the main like say if there's gonna be a love interest, they never get a full Asian girl. It's always like a half or a quarter, and they do it. I see it over and over and over, just in movies, and it's just like, why do you guys do that so much? I mean, I was watching that movie last night. It's called Skin Trade that had Tony Jaa and Dolph Lundgren in it, and
Oh, I've not heard about this. Is that what's
it
that?
also had Michael J. White in it, Ron Perlman, and what's his name played RoboCop, Frank Wells.
Is this on Netflix?
It was. It's
It
like,
was.
or no,
So
no,
I
no.
gotta
They just put it on there.
Okay.
Because it's a really recent movie. It can't, I remember seeing the trailer for it on something I bought. I want to say this year, like maybe an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or something like that. Maybe there was a trailer for it on.
It's like all these guys are brawling in the same room. That's what I'm hoping.
No,
The name my skin trade, it makes it sound like it's about human trafficking. But
that's actually what it's about. For some reason, I thought
fuck.
what I thought it was actually about was skin trade, like kind of like
Punching each other in the fucking face.
kind of like how you say like
Fucking
when
like
you
that.
crash crash your car into somebody else, it's like you're trading paint. Like I was thinking skin
Yeah.
trade, like you're punching each other in the face, you're trading skin. Like I just got a weirder way of looking at it, but that's what I literally thought.
That's
I was
what
like, let's fucking play this shit, and then I was like, oh okay. Just starts off like some girl who's almost about to get raped in the game, like. Hopefully Tony Jaa will come in and save her. It's like, oh, and then he does. It's like, oh, okay, good. I thought this was going to be like a weird intro to the movie, that like a family fest.
We're gonna
like,
trade some skin. Like punch, freeze frame, skin trade comes up.
I'll say it's a good movie. Not an amazing movie, but it's still very enjoyable. Plus, you get to watch Dolph Lundgren and Tony Jaa fight each other.
You said Ron Perlman and Tony Jaa and like all those other guys. I was really interested, but I'll check it out. But I mean, I just imagine like these 8 guys are all just gonna battle, like and like some kind of like game of death kind of thing. Like I'd watch the fucking shit out of that.
It's better than The Protector 2.
Okay.
So like,
I still haven't seen Protector 2 because I'm not ready for it.
it's good. It's just
It's
Tony
not
Jaa.
Protector 1 or Ong Bak 1.
No, it's just not up to the caliber. But the weird thing about Tony Jaa movies, like recently, it's like all the ones he's in, other than like Fast and the Furious 7, it's like they felt like the budget went down slightly. And I'm not saying they're really bad, but like this one was like it's pretty good. I mean, it was written by Dolph Lundgren, so that's kind of cool. It's different, and
Is
there's a lot of
Tony
action in it, But it's
is
funny because there's a scene where like Dolph Lundgren's like running away from Tony Jaa, and he's on like a motorcycle, but Tony Jaa's keeping up with him, so it just makes him look like he's this really old man trying to escape. Plus, because Dolph Lundgren, every single time he's running, he's just kind of like you're like watching a 60-year-old man like run away from like this like little Asian guy chasing him around, and he's just kind of like going at like a nice pace, just trying to get away.
Leaving that, I'll say this: like Paul Walker, may he rest in peace. But I don't care. There's no way he can beat Tony Jaa in a fist fight. That's
why you gotta tie that thing to him so he gets sucked down the shaft.
I haven't seen the movie since the theaters, but I mean, I was still, even that right there, I was still kind of like, because it took me a minute to realize, I heard Tony Jaa was going to be in the movie, and I was watching it, I'm like, I was expecting to be he was like part of the team or something. Like, oh wait, is that him? Is he the guy in the asshole mustache? Oh, that's Tony Jaa, awesome, But then like, because everybody kind of had like a villain from the team, and Paul Walker's was Tony Jaa, and I was kind of like, oh, no, I was just kind of like, I mean, I know he's the good guy, but come on, really.
Who'd you want? Did you want Ludacris to fight him instead or something?
Vin Diesel Vin Diesel and The Rock would have to like, at once take him on, I feel like. Because all right, here's the thing. Dom's the main character, so I know that he has to win. I honestly think Tony Jaa would win in real life. The Rock, it's kind of Tony Jaa and The Rock collide, the world might explode. With the help of Vin Diesel and everybody else on the team, they could defeat Tony Jaa. Right?
It should have just been an all-out street brawl between.
Or it could have just been Tony Jaa versus Kurt Russell.
Though.
It could have been Tony Jaa versus Kurt Russell. He just like takes off like his jacket, just rolls up his sleeves. All right, you son of a bitch, let's go. Like puts his chest out, Well,
because Kurt Russell, he's not that much older than Dolph Lundgren, so like I can see it happening.
Dolph Lundgren, yeah, I don't know, just something about just the old timer going against the young new kid. Just like, I don't know, just like in that flaming warehouse in that one scene. Yeah, he just rolls his sleeves up. Come on, like flexes out his like strap, his like overall straps for a second. While he's like bouncing around, spinning around, doing all these crazy like elbows and kicks in midair, just fucking like Kurt Russell's just doing old timey boxing, swaying left and right,
I'm not gonna kid you. That's almost how the Dolph Lundgren battles are against Tony Jaa. Just
that's awesome. That makes sense to me.
But it makes me feel just because he's this big guy, and it's just funny because it's just the movie takes place in the beginning. It's just like Dolph Lundgren's in New Jersey because he's a New Jersey cop, because that's what you expect. Mm-hmm. And then, at some point he's got to go to Thailand. So it just makes you laugh because there's this huge Swede guy like sitting on the bus next to like all these like little Asian people looking at him. But yeah, when they're kind of fighting each other, Tony Jaa's jumping off stuff, doing elbows, doing knees, all the Muay Thai stuff. And then like it's just like Dolph Lundgren just like straight punch, grabs him, throws him through a table or something like that, just like picking up a child and beating him.
Nothing a little like straightforward like Swede force can't stop.
But no, I would still say it's still a pretty darn enjoyable movie. I'm not gonna say it's an amazing one, but it's got a lot of cool action scenes and those kind of ones where like, what makes a good action movie sort of is like, well, I've never seen Dolph Lundgren and Tony Jaa fight before, so that's what we get in this film.
There you
sort
go.
Of like it was in like not Man with the Iron Fist 2 because I
never saw the second one.
Did you see the second one?
I never did. Is it on? It's on Netflix. Might give it a shot.
It is. Check it out. It's not as good as the first one, but because it's funny because I went back and watched that first one again. Like,
I'm sure it's better second time around, maybe.
Bucks, and there's like an extended cut too, and it had like 15 extra minutes and everything. No, second time around, I actually liked it a lot more. I was like, dude, this is actually a really cool and clever movie, and just all the different like unique things. I don't know what it was like that. I think that day was partially ruined just because of like Wreck-It Ralph. I know that came later in the day, but for some reason I felt like that slightly brought down Man with the Iron Fist just a little bit more too. Because when I was rewatching, I was like, Man with the Iron Fist, that's actually a pretty darn good movie. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it just got a lot of stuff that, like, the cool thing is because RZA just takes all these little elements from all these different types of martial arts movies and then slaps them all together, Quentin Tarantino style, And I think it comes out being this very unique like movie, and because really Riz is the main character, but you got all these other like big characters going. I mean, you got Russell Crowe in there. You got
There's the guy that had like the
Batista.
spikes on his armor.
Yeah, you got that guy who was I can never think of that guy's name, but he's in all kinds of stuff. Then you got Batista, and I almost want to say that was Batista's first movie. He might have done maybe a small role in like one of those WWE production ones, but I want to say right there that's the start, because from there he does that, then he does Riddick, then he does Guardians.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember,
and then Lucy Liu's in it too. So there's all sorts of really sweet stuff going around in that film.
Well, that's one of those movies. Even though it's called Man with the Iron Fist, it's more about like I kind of wish there's more of these kind of movies where it's like it's almost kind of like the good, bad, and the ugly kind of thing, where it's just an ensemble cast, all with their own goals. Some of them team up, some of them like backstab each other, and it's more of just about this whole group of people rather than this one main character. And sometimes even those movies kind of start to veer towards focusing on more than, like the good, the bad, and the ugly goes on. It more veers towards to the ugly, the Eli Wallach character. But for a while, it's just about these three guys, and not focusing on one of them too much. And that's kind of what like Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels is for. Actually, that's more what Snatch is. Snatch is more of that. And then, and as well as, I like this movie, but I mean, I'm not big on the ending, but like Smoking Aces, it's just like this weird, all these weird different assassins just going after this one guy who's on the top floor of a casino in Lake Tahoe,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I like, like those kind of like, just weird ensemble cast movies are cool. And that's what Man with the Iron Fist was, even though called Man with Iron Fist. I'd say that like the RZA was probably my favorite character in the movie. RZA and the Russell Crowe character, I'd say.
Yeah, but the thing about it is just like there's a lot of neat characters in it. Even the bad guys are like totally like there's like some douchey ones like the Lion Clan or whatever. Not the good Lion Clan guy, but the kind of like the two, the silver and the gold or whatever they're called. There's the silver and bronze lion. Mm-hmm. It's like even though they're like really douchey, it's almost like they still work really well because I think it's just they're big over the top characters. But that's kind of neat. That sort of reminds me almost like what makes it like something like a Metal Gear Solid good is because Metal Gear Solid always had that thing where it's a real world thing, but then you got these over the top characters that kind of come in there that are larger than life, and that's sort of a neat thing. And that's Man with the Iron Fist reminds me a lot, sort of almost like if Metal Gear Solid was like a martial arts film.
Yeah.
It kind of has that sort of thing going on with it. And now the second one, it's still pretty good, but it's like it literally is the Man with the Iron Fist. There's nobody else in it.
Oh, okay.
It's just like, well, for a while there, I remember watching the movie, like, it's been like 30 minutes. I'm like, dude, where the fuck is RZA at? Like, it's his movie. Where the hell is he at? Like, there's just a bunch of Asian guys fighting each other for a while. And it's got
come in at some point.
And it's got, he's in it, but like, he's not like, okay, the amount that he's in, like, probably the first one?
Yeah.
It's the same amount that he is in the second one, but there's no other, like, Russell Crowe or Batista or any of these other characters. Just, not like they're bad. There's just a bunch of other Asians. It's just RZA and a bunch of Asians. Mm-hmm. Like that's
RZA and a bunch of Asians. This November on CBS.
And it's got Shang Tsung's in it. I don't know what that actor's name is, but whenever I see him, it's always like, dude, there's Shang Tsung. And actually, I take it back. Shang Tsung was in that Skin Trade. He was also in that too.
Okay.
Like Skin Trade was one of those ones. Like if you're really in Mortal Kombat 1.
Oh, right. Okay.
I don't know what the guy's real name is, and he'll forever be known as Shang Tsung. And he's like, he might say one of those ones, like, for some reason, everybody wants him in their, like, martial arts, like, movie, because he was also in that Keanu Reeves one, the 47 Ronin.
And he was like, that's like when he was fat and old, and he's no longer like, your soul is mine. Yeah. Now, I think maybe, if I had to
lost
guess,
a little bit of weight since the 47 Ronin, because he was a little bit skinnier in Skin Trade. Still old, but...
If I had to guess, he's probably kind of like I don't really know all my martial arts cinema as well as I probably should. I mean, I know my big ones like Sony Chiba and Bruce Lee, but
Chan and Jet Li, all the classics.
And more recent, like Tony Jaa. But if I had to guess, that's probably some like cult actor. Like he has a big fan base. This probably did a lot of stuff in the '80s and the '70s. If I had to guess.
Well, I was gonna say he's probably one of those ones like if you ask Quentin Tarantino. Somebody like that. You don't know
who that guy is? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they would point out because he reminds just one of those ones, like, sort of like, what's his name in A Clockwork Orange?
Alex McDowell.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
Malcolm
not
McDowell. Malcolm
yeah.
McDowell. Alex was the character. Malcolm McDowell was the actor.
Like,
They get them confused.
Shang Tsung, he reminds me of like kind of like Malcolm McDowell, like where everybody now, for as far as martial arts movies go, they all want to put him in the movie, like somehow, some way, like just give him a spot in there, like just that thing, because that's how Malcolm McDowell is. It just seems like all these like directors nowadays who just loved his early work and especially love the Clockwork Orange, they all want to put Malcolm McDowell somewhere in their film.
Did you know that like that part in Pulp Fiction when Jules Winfield gives the Bible passage, he misquotes it because he actually took it line for line out of, I think it was The Bodyguard with Sonny Chiba.
Huh.
So that's the reason why he fucks up the verse and like kind of skips a part and changes a few words around.
I don't know if I've seen the one, The Bodyguard. Now, is that the one where he's on the airplane?
I think it's from The Bodyguard. Maybe it's another. It opens up. Well, here's the funny thing with The Bodyguard. It's a good movie and it's worth seeing. It's not
Is
as
that
much.
is
It's
that on
not as
that
much
four
of a
disc like Sonny Chiba collection thing or whatever it is?
It might be. I don't know, because you buy enough of those things, you're like, oh, I got 2 or 3 of these by this point. Because it'll be like, you'll buy like eight pack of martial arts movies, and like like 4 of them are like the ones you really wanted. 1 or 2 are just some rare gem that you just kind of stumble across, and the other 2 or 1 are just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, like some knockoff crap.
Like Bruce Lee, spelled like Bruce Lie.
Like
your
always
whole
gonna lie
life's yeah, because they made like, I remember after Bruce Lee died, they came out
Game of Death 2.
If I was fucking there for it, they came out with several sequels to like Chinese Connection 2, Big Boss 2. Like he dies at the end or goes to jail at the end of most of those movies. Like, this is his brother coming to get revenge, starring Bruce Lee, but it's spelled like Bruce Lie. Like your whole life's a fucking lie. But what they had. Well, what the fuck was I going with this? Oh yeah, no, Bodyguard. It's more of an action movie than it is a martial arts movie. There's a couple martial arts scenes in it, but it's like it opens up. Some guys are trying to like hijack a plane, and Sonny Chiba is just sitting there reading a magazine. He looks up, says, "Give us your fucking wallet." Hey, aren't you that movie star? All of a sudden, he knocks him the fuck out, and then he goes and says like, something has to be done. He just goes and makes a press conference. I, Sonny Chiba, the actor, am raging a one-man war against crime and drug dealing.
Well, that's almost like what you want to see, though, like in a movie. It's just the idea that, like, oh, this actor's really that in real life.
Yeah, so then it just becomes this crime film about him tracking down, like he works with this agent to go track down like some crime lord, and there's a lot of gunplay in it. There's a little bit of martial arts. It's good. It's worth seeing, but the whole time you just can't kind of laugh. Like, yes, I am an actor. I am this badass in real life. When there's a part, it's just like that kind of like that stuff you probably wouldn't get away with as much now, but it's like how much fucking rape happens in martial arts movies just over the shoulder.
Always.
Like it's not a big deal, like there's a part where he invites someone over to his house and it's the bad guy sends a message. I have the movie. I've watched it like twice. It was some time ago. There's a girl there playing his sister, and at some point she's like, "Oh, sister, go get us some fucking beers or go get us some tea or some shit," And they're sitting there talking. They hear some struggling. The sister's fighting off some people. Then by the time they find her, she's on the ground naked, like, "Ah, she was raped." She's like, "Brother," like, "I will avenge you, sister." So okay. Well, aside from anime parody, anime like live action adaptations and old kung fu movies that had a lot of rape scenes in them for no real reason. Offhand, I just want to mention real quick, I actually was on the Robin Slim show last week, and it was a pretty good time.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you were going to do that.
They invited me on there, and they're a good group of guys. There's 4 of them. We just kind of went on there. I went on there for I came in at the very end of the show. Everything's broken into segments, but you can check them out. They're on SoundCloud, and they have a YouTube channel, and they're also on SoundCloud. The Robin Slim show, so check them out. They're a pretty good group of guys. There's 4 of them. They're pretty funny. And it's one of those things, though, because I called him on the phone, and I was watching because there's a live feed on YouTube. Or online.
You're like Larry King calling in? Like, "Holler, you're on the air."
Kind of like that, yeah. I called in though, and I didn't realize there was a delay in the thing. It's like, oh, okay, so this is all. So I had to turn off the thing because I was just. So when that happens, it's kind of like one of those things like, who am I talking to right now? Okay, I recognize Rob's voice. Rob's voice is very distinct, but everybody else not. It's just one of those things like it's kind of hard knowing when everyone's talking. So I'm like, did I fuck this up? Did I fuck this up? I didn't say that on the show, but I mean, this whole time I'm wondering. But they got back to me like, oh, it was really fun. Made friends with a few of them on Facebook and all that and Twitter. So it was a good show. We just kind of talked about like. Talked a little bit about Wallaby. Talked a bit about Rick and Morty and just random cartoons from the 90s. Also went into just Newgrounds shit because they too have posted some shit on Newgrounds. One of them they did it's an older one. They did it on Flash. They wouldn't call it Pokemon, like Poke a Mon. That's how it's spelled. And it's just pretty much just kind of like a down and dirty, just kind of like fucked up version of Pokemon when it gets down to it. But the end of it, and like all the Pokemon, like. There's Machoke, but he's spelled like Manchoke, and he's just like a Machoke that's constantly just jerking off, you know? So it gives you an idea of it. And then it comes in, like, the end of it, like, there's a standard angry Newgrounds fan. Like, my time is very important to me, and you highly offended me with so much unnecessary language. You just hear this typing noise, and even when, like, when he's done typing all the stuff out, you still hear it slowly turns into jerk-off noises as he's saying all this shit, like, you know? So, yeah, they're funny. They're a good group of guys. Check them out.
I feel like I've seen that video before on Newgrounds.
Okay.
I almost want to say when it came out. It just sounds familiar.
And there's somewhere there they've got a fake ad for like some white rappers called Queef on My Gold Teeth. So.
Now are these guys British? Is that what those guys were?
No, that's Casa Mirth. I was talking to Casa Mirth recently, and we might have an ad on one of their shows soon. We might. I'm not going to say totally for a fact we are, but I believe we might. So. They're a good podcast too, Casa Mirth. But they're one of those podcasts that, like, they're so British and so dry. It's kind of like, how do I put it? Like, it's like it's like one of those things like they could almost say anything and it sounds like this is fucking serious, you know? Like they'll talk about like, what's the word for exile? Is it? No, they don't say that. Like, but they're trying. There's an episode where it's what started the podcast or what started a conversation we had. Like. They were trying to think of the word exile, but like it starts with an E. But what is it? They just like in that tone. It just sounds like this is very serious. I must let them know. You know, like, something about like a very dry British voice. It sounds very like informative. But at the same time, if they're asking a question, it's just like, oh wow, it's important. It's very dire. They need to know this right now. British accents always just sound so sophisticated to me. I don't know why.
It happens. I don't know. It's one of those ones. You can get away with a lot more with a British accent, I think, than you can with an American one, especially California American.
Well, they're really funny. They're actually a really funny, smart group of guys too. I was listening to the Paint It Black episode where everybody was sending in their Paint It Black Boulder Dash themes, and my favorite. Everybody did a good one, but my favorite was the Casa Mirth one. And that one, they were just kind of saying, Boulder Dash, Boulder. It had like this old-timey kind of ragtime to it.
Oh, yeah, it had the ragtime. I remember that one, yeah.
And at some point, they just started saying things that rhyme together, but it just fit perfectly. Like, Caruso was in Tango and Cash. Boulder Dash, just random shit like that, you know?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Like, they're right. These guys are smart.
Oh, that's pretty funny. Have you got farther than Metal Gear Solid 5 at all?
Not really. I got to go back and play it a little bit more, but
I know I took kind of like a slight break from it for a while. I think it was when I got Mario Maker, and then I finally was like, you know what, I got to sit back down and get farther in this game. And then all of a sudden, it was like I was playing a copious amount of that for a while. And it's just one of those kind of games, though. It's like I think it gets much better as it kind of the farther you get into it, but it is just like it's almost like Metal Gear Solid made to suck your time away, like version. Because all the other Metal Gear games, when you think about them, like. There was a time period where you'd think of them like these big, long games, but they're really not that long, each one. Like the first 4 of them, they take roughly maybe your first time through if you dicked around a bit. Like in Metal Gear Solid 3, it might take you 20 hours. But in general, if I do a run through number 3 right now, it'll probably take me like 8 or 9 hours if I watched everything and so on. Mm-hmm. And then sort of like Twin Snakes and Metal Gear Solid 2 would take less, maybe like 6 hours or something like that. And I could speed run Twin Snakes in like an hour and 40 minutes or something like that. Where this one, it's like, you just keep going on these missions, and it's just like, it's just more and more and more and more times being kind of put into it. Like, I finally, because I always kind of wondered how long that was. I'm like, is this game going to take me like an hour? Or, 100 hours? An hour. This game going to take me like 100 hours or something like that. How much time do I have to, like, dedicate to this thing? I got
That
the
game,
countdown to fucking Fallout 4 coming. I got like,
that game, it's like, no, don't get me wrong, it is a fun game, and I do recommend it, but I feel like this is kind of like a little bit of the shit that Konami was doing that probably made Hideo Kojima leave. I heard there's this thing. I don't know if they still have it, but you know, like how you can steal materials for your base and like use it for you can go online and
build
battle.
shit.
This really pissed me off when I heard it because this is like just totally fucking someone else over and expecting you to make this part of your life or expecting you to make this a career out of it. There's this thing where if you do join the online thing and you go and attack bases or you put yourself in that world, it's not one of those things like, oh, you're signed on right now, someone can go invade your base. Someone can go invade your base at any time and steal all your shit while you're not there. And
I
there's
don't think it
no
happens I don't think it happens when you're offline. I think it only happens when you sign in. So
no, but
if
but
you
it's
go
like one of
on,
those. I heard that if while you're like away, like it can happen while you're. That's what I heard. Maybe it's
like you take a week vacation and you come back and it's almost like
your
my
shit's
base was robbed. Where is everything? Like
yeah.
you're yelling, you're running around the house, like you're like, what was stolen? What was stolen? Like, no, you don't understand. My mother base, everything's gone. All that hard work. Where's my fucking deer and my lambs and all these tanks I've collected?
The Solid Snake petting zoo. I was building a petting zoo. That's ultimately what you're doing. You are like making a petting zoo of just all this shit. That almost seems like I would say Metal Gear Solid. Going back for a second, it almost does seem kind of like we have a lot of Pokemon conversation in the last couple of podcasts, but it really seems kind of like Pokemon. Like this guy has high stats, knock him the fuck out and steal him. You know?
Well, it's one of those ones like there's a never-ending joy from like the Fulton, and like now I've had all this joy from Peace Walker, because I think to a lot of people this joy is like a brand new one, but it's like this is all what Peace Walker was, because that's all really Metal Gear Solid 5 is. It's like an expanded version of that. But there is literally that thing where I see like a fucking like wolf that's gonna come up and attack me. It's like, get over here, you fucking Pokemon, and like punch him down, like you're coming and capturing you and going with me.
I almost just get this image of just like walking through the grass, like a wild Russian appeared,
But there's just like
shoot him in the kneecap and steal him.
The thing that could like it just always makes me laugh is it's like when you just think about it, like, okay, you're this guy, you're out kind of doing your patrol, you took a job in Africa, because hell, what else are you gonna do in this part? So you're out there just doing your rounds and so on, and all of a sudden you just instantly fall asleep. Next thing you know, you wake up and you're like on this balloon, like 10,000 feet in the air, and a plane comes by and grabs you and takes you back to this base where now they've forced you to like work on this other team. Like you might have had a family or a wife and kids, and that is all gone now because you have been taken back by these Americans to work at like the meal house section or like the clean toilets or something. God knows what they're gonna do with you.
Because that's something they don't take into effect. Like, 'cause you got like different people you could arrange and like like staff in certain areas, but there is like, okay, what are you good at? You're good at cooking. Like, well, somebody there's like, okay, well, I was just recruited by the greatest soldier ever, air quotes recruited, but regardless, he handpicked me. He must see something in me. What is it? Clean that fucking toilet.
Well, it's literally like
those shit speckles aren't going to clean themselves.
Because you got to the Africa part, right?
I just started the Africa part.
Because that's kind of the part too, where like now that like when you're Snake, it's almost like Snake's going around capturing black people to go like work for him. Like,
I knew it was going there. It was already like, at least when it was like Russians, like, okay, it's white dude doing this to white dude. But when now I'm in Africa, now I get a real fucking guilty conscience about it. Like, fuck.
Well, because it's like, okay, I mean, these people are. It's not like they're like. I mean, like they're all proud to work there. It's a really weird. It's kind of like. It's almost like in The Patriot. They're like, oh, like Mel Gibson pays us. We're not slaves. It's just like, Big Boss, he pays us. He really likes us a lot.
Yeah, it's like that whole part. I mean, it's a fun game, and it's just it's just the location. I'm sure there's other places you go to. I'm just at the point now. I mean, I haven't called in reinforcements. I've been killing most people. If I see a guy like in crazy high tech gear, I'll try and get that guy. But I notice most people I kind of stumble upon in public are usually like E and D's, maybe a C if I'm lucky. But if I see someone kind of like in like special, like they have like night vision goggles, special like bulletproof vest, like okay, or like a bullet belt, that usually means this guy's higher up, so I'll knock that guy out and steal him. But most of the time I'm at this point where I just either sneak by him or just kill him.
Yeah, mostly for me, I'm always like putting them to sleep anyway, so I always just take them away just so they don't wake back up. Well, when they wake back up, they're working for me.
I'm wondering.
Later in the game, there's a bunch of child soldiers that like you gotta like capture. You can't kill them. Like
Are
they
you
get all like
fucking serious? You capture child soldiers?
no. There's literally a part where like there's this mission I got to where like you go in this cave and like you're supposed to go kill these like prisoners, and Snake comes on. There's all these like little black kids in there and stuff, and like they like at first I was like, holy crap, are they gonna give me like the option to like you can either kill these Snake or you can bring them back to the base, because there's a handful of those missions where like Revolver Ocelot's telling you one thing, and then Master Miller's telling you another, and you can kind of like pick and choose. Which I kind of wonder what happens like in the long run, because I seem to go along with everything Revolver Ocelot says.
I always agree with Revolver Ocelot.
Because Will Miller's always like, "Fuck that guy, kill him." You know what? Stab him in the eye. I don't like him. His face is ugly. And Revolver Ocelot's like, "Well, I don't know. He could help with the base. Somebody's got to clean toilets."
Or just like one of those things like. When you fight quiet, you just like, yeah, fuck that bitch. She's on a sniper rifle. Fuck her. I hate her. Like, well, she's pretty good. She could teleport. And we don't know her whole story. Fuck her, man. She ain't stepping on this fucking base.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, okay.
I lost a fucking arm and a leg. I don't give a fuck anymore.
I'm just really pissed off. At least you got a robot fucking arm. Like, we couldn't afford 2 robot arms, apparently.
Well, no, his whole thing is like, his whole thing, it's that whole weird anime soldier code thing where it's just kind of like, I need to know the pain so I don't forget, Every time I look, it's a reminder of my failure, something I need so I don't happen again. One of that.
Well, there's a part, too, where, it's okay, you find these kids in there. So over for some reason, because you're always doing these missions for, somebody else. Who this person is, I don't know, because they never have explained it yet. But, they're like, okay. And the Snake just shoots off camera for a second, and the kids scream, so it sounds like he just killed all these kids. But instead, Snake, carries them on. He's like, "Come on, you're coming to the Snake Playhouse." And then,
he just throw them in a bag and throw the sack over his shoulder. What happens?
You throw one of them over your shoulder, and then the rest of them all sneak by, and you got to kind of sneak past the enemies and whatnot. Then you throw them all in the helicopter, and then take them back.
Throw them, just chuck them out.
Yeah, you put them up there nicely, but And then when you bring him back, Master Miller just kind of looks and he's like, pushes one of the kids. He takes a gun, points it at their face or whatever, or a knife or something like that. And then one of the kids grabs the machine gun from Snake, and Snake's like, "Look, he's a natural. We'll just train to be child soldiers. They'll do a good job, right?"
I'm gonna have some fucking I'll play the game, and I'm not going to be somebody who goes online writing a post about this is a serious problem, but I'm not going to lie. I'm going to have real, some moral conflicts with that fucking mission when I get to it. It's going to be no Russian in Call of Duty 2. So I was just when I get to that part, I'm just going to be I got to train child soldier. Fuck. Can't we just send him to a fucking orphanage?
What they do is, I think what happens is the Snake's or for some reason, Revolver Ocelot's the nicest guy in the world in that one.
Which is weird because he's basically the main villain of the Metal Gear Solid series.
And this is the point where everything he's we'll get them schooling here and educate them. Their lives will change. They won't have to be what they'd be if they were still in Africa. They're on white man's land now. Revolver Ocelot.
That land is your land.
This land is Ocelot land. I was from Russia, but now I'm American.
Now I just got this image of just fucking Ocelot just riding on the back of an Ocelot with a little black kid sitting behind him singing the song, riding going across America.
Well, then, okay, after you rescue these black kids, then next thing you know, there's all these missions where there's these child soldiers, but you can't shoot them or anything like that. You can only put them to sleep or slam them on the ground and knock them out. Which once I accidentally had Quiet, I thought she had the tranquilizer gun. I was like, "Quiet, fire!" And it just shoots on the black kids in the head. I was like, "Whoops, my bad."
Mission fail? Is it immediate mission?
Yeah, it was an instant mission fail. But I thought she had the tranquilizer gun. Quiet apparently doesn't give a fuck.
She kills someone right at the beginning of the game. She kills that nurse, that doctor, and then she gets set on fire. So I don't give her a bit for giving a fuck.
Yeah, she's got a lot of problems with some of these people. But
have they got into her story yet? Because she literally gets set on fire at the beginning of the game and falls out a window. Now she's back and totally. And
there's more. There's been a couple other little scenes in there, one where there's this guy who's like, "Oh man, get away from me!" And she's walking slowly at him, and she kicks this guy down on the ground, and then 3 other soldiers hey. Because they finally start to look like Metal Gear Solid soldiers on your mother base, with the masks on and everything.
Is this when are you talking about the part when she first comes to your base, or is this another scene?
No, this is another one. And there's this And like so, like these soldiers try to restrain her, so she like strangles both of them, slams them down, throws another one down, and then she takes this knife and she stabs it right down, and the guy catches it in his teeth, and he's holding it in his teeth as she's going down, 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 and then it busts her, or it ends up busting this guy's teeth, and she's about to stab it through when Big Boss comes and pulls her away. Huh. And he literally like, I think Revolver Ocelot knocks her out with like a trank or whatever, and Big Boss says, he's like, if this happens again, she's out of here, or get rid of her.
It's like, all right, we gotta let her go out and have fun every once in a while. Take her with you.
Yeah, go take her with you.
I'm surprised I haven't seen more of like, I don't know, just given the world just given like, I kind of, part of me, I think some people can be a little oversensitive about it, but the way how she looks, I kind of understand in this case. I'm surprised I haven't seen more of like
outcry about that, because it's kind of like one of those ones.
Because she literally is. If you look at her at first, all right, so she's the sexy badass character. Then I looked at her outfit a bit more. I'm like, all right, she's literally just walking around in a bikini. That's not even pants. Those are nylons that are even ripped up. And then what do? You throw this chick in a cage, and she's there for a while. And later she joins your team, and yeah, she's a badass soldier. But I'm surprised I haven't seen more of an outcry at this character about that. You know what I mean?
I know, because this day and age, people are such pussies anymore, and they can't handle anything.
Well, it's one of those things. Like I kind of this one.
This is one of the one I can kind of get. At least has a little bit more reasoning behind it.
There's some shit because people are making like such a big deal. I mean, look. I mean, logically, I guess it doesn't make a lot of sense in the moment. But like, all right, like people are making an example where people were kind of just making a big deal out of nothing. Maybe if I ever wore them, I would understand. But like, people are making such a big deal about the high heels in like Jurassic World when she's running away in high heels. Like in real life, yeah, that probably snap and it's probably not comfortable. So maybe visually it looks kind of dumb, but to like protest the movie strictly for that, because I remember so many people were like, oh my god, she was wearing high heels while she ran. Like yeah, and that's kind of dumb, but that's,
well, here's the thing, it's like
she probably could have tossed them and ran, but that's a little 3-second shot of the movie, where you see she's running in heels. And so the protest.
The whole point about survival is that, like a survival movie, is that you just kind of have what you have on. You don't get what you expect her to go change into like some Nikes or something like that, like it's some fucking comedy or something like that. Like people are so fucking stupid nowadays.
So
sometimes.
when I heard people complaining about that and that, like she's running around in high heels, it's like that's it's kind of dumb, but it's like. Yeah, she could toss them aside, but that's one little tiny aspect we barely even see. We mostly see all this other shit going on. So that right there is one where like, okay, chill the fuck out. But Quiet, I kind of even though, I kind of understand some of like, I've heard a little bit, but not as much complaints, just because the idea of just kind of like, yeah, that's like, she's like, she's just the hot chick, just basically just walks around in a bikini and just kills people, and she doesn't even fucking talk. So I kind of understand some of the controversy regarding that, but I'm surprised I haven't heard more of it, given smaller things.
Well, it's not like, Revolver Ocelot, Master Miller, and Snake all like go in the cage at night and just like creepily
jerk off in the corner. That's a mini game. Tap triangle real quick to try.
Remember in Metal Gear Solid 1 where like you had to like tap square to like resist the lightning or electricity? Well, it's kind of like that, but in a cage with 3 other dudes. Nothing gay about it.
You gotta fucking try. You gotta try and come before the other guy.
Look each other in the eye. Like, oh man, you made eye contact with Revolver Ocelot.
Look with L1.
But yeah, it is sort of because the weird thing too is because like that's one of the few female characters in the entire game. Like there's a couple others. Like I've captured some along the way, which that sounds even weirder. Like I captured some. Well, they weren't I guess they were like prisoners of war. They weren't just like some random like guard.
I guess it just seems so weird that one of the only. I'm not trying to be like super like overly sensitive here or anything, but like I guess it just seems weird. One of their only female characters is the character they keep in a cage, wears next to nothing, and that's kind of all. She doesn't even talk. So, but it is still a good game, and I'm not going to let that ruin it for me. Maybe something.
It does. It's something I just kind of noticed, but it's nothing that like bothers me.
It doesn't really. I guess it's one of those things. It doesn't really bother me that much. I just know it's one more thing. It's just like if I'm. I guess it's like one of those things. If I'm like. if I show like Metal Gear Solid, if I show this game to a friend of mine that's a girl, it's like, here's one more thing like you're gonna give me shit about, one more thing I have to try and defend. Because every once in a while you have that conversation, like, no, it's actually cooler than you think, and just give it a chance. They see that, like, oh, here's one more thing I gotta fucking defend or apologize for.
Yeah, it's
It's
sort of
more
that
like
anime
that.
thing that you
Yeah.
gotta like the weird thing you gotta sort of defend, even though technically Metal Gear Solid always feels like it's not really made for like women in general. It's totally like as man as you
This
can
man,
get.
yeah.
I mean, like yeah, it is like the most man time there possibly is.
There's still surprising a lot amount of like, like gay, like, I mean, a lot of like, I guess sort of gay stuff in Metal Gear Solid. I'm not saying that as like a just gonna be like it's fucking gay, but I mean that as like there's still a lot of like actual gay shit in Metal Gear Solid because there's that whole part of Metal Gear Solid 3 where
Yeah,
there's Colonel Volgin was
Vulcan,
actually he was like
you're
about
not the boss,
yeah, you're not the boss,
or the
there's
captain, or whatever the fuck he
yeah,
was.
yeah, no, because there's a guy that looks just like Raiden. You even put on a mask to look like him, and he says like that guy's basically his fuck puppet. And when you kill him and throw him inside of or like trank him, whatever you do, and put him inside of a like hide him somewhere, the guy's wearing like a fucking man thong, And then like when you go up to him and you try and pass by him, he says like, "You're not the colonel," and, like walks up, slaps you right in the balls. I know him better than anybody, So. So it's not like so I guess it's not like Metal Gear Solid
It's
doesn't dive
it's
into that
so
really,
manly that it gets even gay.
yeah. It doesn't dive into that side. Even people like make jokes about the Ocelot, not Ocelot, the Otacon and Snake dynamic. Like Snake's the butch, Otacon's the bitch. Like I can kind of see that.
Well, then they can also even say things about like with like Gray Fox too, like where he's just like, oh, he's just into like torturous stuff. Like I remember that punch. That
Snake,
last time you took me down in bed and you were punching me in the face while you fucked me in the ass. Like,
make me feel that way again, Snake.
but I just feel like it's just like the thing about Metal Gear Solid. It's just so manly in a sense. Like it's just like these
So
guys are all like,
60s around back to being gay.
yeah, it comes around. It's just but that thing. It's just like, life's about war and that's all we know. That's the only thing we do, Snake.
I kind of see that. Yeah, no, they do have that. Yeah.
It's like every single time we've ever had a female come around, she either one betrays us, two blows up, three turns out to be some kind of villain, or four we don't know where the hell she goes for 15 years.
Have you actually? Because there's no guide putting me that to this direction. I probably wouldn't have stumbled upon it either way. Did you ever pump into to Paz or Paz?
In the five,
Yeah,
she's in five.
the girl that blows up.
Yeah, how's she in five?
She's in 5. Yeah. If
How
you
the hell
put,
did you survive blowing up?
all right, here's the thing.
I mean, no, don't like, because I mean, like, they literally was like, Master Miller and Snake were like, oh fuck, she's gonna bomb and her chuck her out the fucking helicopter.
No, what happened? What happens is I just stumbled across like, oh, you got the medical center, and I thought like I know like, oh, we're keeping quiet at the medical center, and like if I go to her, can I make her join my team suddenly? Because as far I'm at now, I've taken a break from the game. She's in the cage, so I was just wandering around like, oh wow, this door opens. There's no marker over it. It's just if you go to the medical center, like on the second floor, there's a door that opens. I just went right in there. I'm like. And I didn't play it, but like the girl, the character Tara Strong voices, right?
Uh huh.
She's in there, and she has a scar over her stomach, and she's basically you find out that they got the bum out, and she fell out of the helicopter, and then it just happened to be like quickly around there, like a helicopter not too far away shot a shell at you guys, and it exploded, so it looked like it was her.
Oh.
And then now
weird.
she's repressing memories, and she doesn't remember anything up to that day. And if you bring up anything, like you show her a picture and like, oh, you're so kind to me, Snake, thank you, or and she'll like phase out. She represses any memory like regarding the bomb or anything like that.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
So yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I'll have to go because the thing about like a Mother Base, it's like there's some of those doors that open, but there's so many of them that don't that I kind of like got like okay, I'm out of here.
Shit to do.
Yeah, it's just like okay, I can't dick like you can't tell me where any of this stuff is. I can't just like dick around like running around these.
I kind of wish
everything looks the same. Everything looks like the big shell.
I wish the AI was a little smarter in some way because I accidentally hit D-Dog while getting in the car to like drive over to one of the other units because I didn't want to spend the fucking money for a helicopter just to go over there. So maybe a cheap bastard in the digital world. And I hit the dog in the process, like your bond with D-Dog dropped. I'm like, what the fuck? The dog should have been staying the fucking way. I called him. I told him to get in the fucking whatever. And I don't know. I got this thing when I drive. I never really stop the car. I'm like, well, it took me 5 minutes to get all the way over here. I might as well do something cool. I just dive out of the car. It always smashes into something. Like, yeah, that's Big Boss. He does whatever the fuck he wants. What I like most about that though is whenever you stop and walk by somebody, they always do that thing like, boss. They stop and salute.
And you can take him, just grab him and just start choking him.
Choking him, punch him, like, thank you, boss. They always and they'll even this comes back to the gay thing. Like, you'll choke him, like, it's an honor to be in your iron grip, if you strangle them or tell them to give information, Well, I love the way you smell, boss.
I feel like the first couple times I was running to jump on the horse, I felt kind of bad because I'd accidentally press square. I don't know why, so I'd Pokemon tackle attack the horse, and the horse would just go down and just oh my god,
just go down a hill.
Yeah, you bet somebody just tackle your horse. I haven't got the dog yet though. Did you get the dog out of a mission? Is that where you
must have missed it earlier on. There's earlier on in the mission. There's an early mission where you drop down. Maybe you didn't pick the right landing zone, but there's a little puppy barking at you. And then Ocelot's is like, oh, that's a scrappy little guy. I bet we could turn him into a soldier. He'd probably die out here by himself. And then I just parachute this little puppy out of there. And then whenever I went back to visit the base, he'd be this small little dog, just follow you around barking. And he's like, thank you for saving the puppy, sir. He's becoming a member of the family. And then later he comes in, he just has an eye patch over. He's D-Dog now. And he's this big badass husky,
Oh yeah, it's just one because I was looking for that. I was like, maybe it's a side ops mission. I'm like, I don't see anything on here that says it, and I never saw that.
It was literally just something that he dropped me down, and there just happened to be a dog there.
Huh? Maybe it just randomly appears at some places.
Yeah, and I
guess that's the one thing. It's kind of I guess all Metal Gear Solid games are kind of like this too, where everybody has sort of slightly different experiences, depending on what you do or what goes on. But this one definitely feels like there is a lot of those ones where this game would be a great game pre-internet, when nobody would be spoiled. This would be a perfect game just to run around where you literally had to go talk to your friends and see what they did or what they got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This right here, I mean, it is still a good game, but I guess it's one of those things Metal Gear Solid. One of the things that always keep me going was even if I was stuck on a part, I know I'd be moving somewhere with the story. I was always curious with the story. This one, I get a story. I get a little glimpse of a story every 4 missions, and it's something I've already usually done before. So it almost seems like it's more of just kind of going through the motions after a while. It's still a fun game, and I always still have fun just blowing the shit out of blowing shit up and all that. But after a while, it just becomes a little bit repetitive. It's still a fun game, but I mean, and it's kind of
one of those ones. I do agree. It is sort of it's it just feels almost like a Metal Gear spin-off, sort of. I mean, I know that they're trying to do something way different, and I read somewhere in one of the reviews that they're talking about. They're the whole point of this game is Metal Gear was always such a series that it literally since 1987 it's been running off that same story. So to the old fans, it's it's great, but they're they want to make a jumping point for somebody who might not have played Metal Gear Solid before.
I guess it's one of those things I mean, I don't want to sound kind of like the book 1984 here, but sometimes when you give kind of too much freedom, you know what I mean? It almost seems kind of you're given almost too much freedom. It almost limits you in some way because we can go kind of do whatever the fuck we want in the game. It's so linear. No, not so linear, but it's so open. The options seem a little, how do I explain this? It seems a little bit more repetitive. Where a more linear game like Metal Gear Solid 1 through 4, there's everything before that. It's kind of you're doing the same thing, but there's a story there that's pushing it along. And that story is, I think, the main drive for that. So if you don't like that story, I guess you're fucked. But if you're like you or me, who do like that story, you get to see how it goes along, and the gameplay just happens to be fun in the process. And if it's a more linear thing, well, I don't know if I'm coming back to this area. I don't know if I am. I might backtrack at some point, but generally I'm just going to be moving on to another location this whole time because it's a track. And sometimes it lets you go back, but this track, I'm always just going to be going this one direction most of the time. So for the first time around, it seems new. Where a more open game like this, it's okay, you've been here before, but you're doing this time. It's kind of this one mission you already did back in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so it does have a lot of that. And, I could see because when Metal Gear Solid 4, like I didn't really think about it when I played it, but that game, if you never played Metal Gear Solid and you had no idea who it was, that game would probably be like one of those games you'd be like, the fuck is going on? Like you
Especially
think
like
about it.
30-minute cutscenes and all that.
Well, not just that, but just like story wise. I mean, I think you could probably make some heads or tails, but that game harkens so back to the original ones that I think that if you just didn't have this knowledge of Metal Gear 1, 2, and Solid 1, 2, and 3, you would just be like, why are these things so important? What you wouldn't get that like love of what makes Metal Gear Solid 4 such an amazing game is when you've played them all and then you see it all come together. I think that's what makes it so cool. Where I mean, I think you could still probably enjoy it for the gameplay and things like that. Where this Metal Gear Solid right here, you could almost jump into this one, and yeah, there's things, but it doesn't go so far back. I mean, like there's a couple references to like number 3 and Peace Walker, but there's not like a copious amount. The story's not that hard. It's kind of like feels like, other than the fact of like I guess like if you played Ground Zeroes in this one, it would all kind of come together pretty well in general.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things of 3 and Peace Walker that you kind of need too, and then other things that make things a little bit better, like if you played the later ones. But it does feel like an easy jump into point if you never played Metal Gear Solid before. I can see kind of why they went with that style for that reason.
I think they made more of a gameplay, just focus more on the gameplay, just so people wouldn't be scared off from the story.
Well, because there's always that kind of complaint that like video games have always got this, where Final Fantasy is a perfect example. People who didn't like Final Fantasy went, you know what, why do they just stand there and attack? That's fucking stupid. It's dumb. And the people that like Final Fantasy are like, dude, that's just how it works. There's something about it. I love it. So at some point, Final Fantasy decides like, hey, those guys that hate our game? Let's make the next one for them, right? What about the people that like our game? Fuck them. We don't like them anyways. So they switch over. And, sometimes it's a good or bad thing. Like here, Resident Evil is a perfect example. Like that one kind of progressed from like, because the camera angles used to be that one where people that didn't like Resident Evil would be like, why is there camera angles? Camera angles are fucking dumb. That's like a movie. Movies are stupid. So you get those people like that, very intelligent people.
I like how the image I get from that voice, it's always like some 14-year-old kid that really likes Limp Bizkit, wears like a jersey, has
in a sideways cap,
and has a big gulp of Mountain Dew. No. He has the slurp and freeze. That thing they had like in the like early 2000s where half of it was made for a freezy, the icy, the other half was soda. Yeah.
Exactly. There we go. That is who I'm kind of talking about. But it expanded into older people too. So then Resident Evil progressed into Resident Evil 4 where they got rid of the camera angles and the pre-rendered backgrounds, but the game still kind of played like Resident Evil. It progressed nicely, and even in the 5 and 6, even whether or not you like those games or not, it still progressed like in a regular Resident Evil form. Where Final Fantasy totally became a different game. I mean, yeah, it sort of might look sort of similar and might have similar things, but it doesn't play the same anymore. You're not getting. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could still say the same thing about Resident Evil, the classic versus the new ones, but I feel like it's still similar. Where in this Metal Gear Solid, it kind of feels they've departed from, the main thing in Metal Gear Solid was that you knew you were going to sit down and half the game was going to be a movie. You're going to get these really cool scenes, you're going to get a lot of story elements, you're going to get these great twists. This one feels like doesn't have that much of that stuff. And even like the weird thing about the camera or like whenever it's a scene, they never have any camera angles. It's almost like it's shot all realistic.
Yeah,
like a documentary.
I never really thought about that. It's
like
all
the cameraman's just kind of out there walking around because it never cuts. Whenever you get a scene, there's no cuts in it.
I never thought about that, but that's a good point.
And it's one of those ones. I guess that's kind of cool because I will say I don't think I've ever seen that really before. It's something that you could do it in a live action movie, but it'd be really hard to do. So in a video game, I guess it makes sense. It's something you kind of original, but it does. I don't know. I mean, that's nothing like it's a bothersome, but it's just small things you kind of notice. That and then, the cutscenes are never that long in this one. I've never seen a cutscene that was longer than, I don't even know, 5 minutes. Might even be the longest one there is in there, other than maybe in the beginning, if you count that as kind of a cutscene.
Mm-hmm. Well, they did have the Metal Gear Solid thing where every game, at some point, main character pisses himself for whatever reason.
Yeah, Otacon pisses himself.
Yeah, or a big character of sorts pisses himself. Like, and I remember, like, what was it? Like, it was one of those things, like, I said this to a friend of mine when, like, I said this to a friend of mine when like Metal Gear Solid 3 came out because I was a little ahead of him. I'm like, dude, at some point, Solid Snake pisses himself because everybody else pissed themselves in other games. I think 3 when you're getting when Vulcan's beating the fuck out of you, and you're like in the torture chamber, you're just hanging there, and like he just like, yeah, that's right, let it go, right when you just piss yourself, and like I'm just like, dude, just so you know, Snake pisses himself. Then he just looks at me, he's like, so fucking what? I'm like, he's Snake. It takes a lot for him to piss himself, right? It's fucked up, isn't it? Then he's just like, why the fuck do you care? I'm just like, it's fucked up, isn't it?
It's like Batman pissing himself. Come on, you just don't see it every day.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin Smith. No, but like, it's one of those things like, yeah, it's like, it must take a lot to make him do that. Just like, he just, whatever, dude, but it's like the same guy, like he's a good friend of mine, but there was also like he absolutely fucking hated Raiden. He just fucking hated Raiden, and like I like Raiden. He's not Snake, but I like Raiden.
He's not Snake, but I like him. He's right behind Snake. I actually like him that close to that much.
But like I remember like when like he says like that's my only problem with Metal Gear Solid 2 is they make us play as Raiden for a good portion of it, and the game's fun, but I fucking hate Raiden. Remember one of us was at the other's house one time. We were playing the game, we were just playing it through. As you start a new game, and there's the part when Raiden's first introduced, and he's wearing like the suit, and that's when the AI Robo Campbell tells you like it's called a skull suit, and da 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 da. And at some point, like Raiden's like, I feel a lot of pressure on my torso, and then all of a sudden he's like, he just shakes his head, like mutters to himself, like fucking little bitch. I just hate him so much. This fucking little bitch, man.
Raiden's one of those kind of characters I just notice is either people like him a lot or they just can't tolerate him. He's totally like a mixed bag for people, and I think he is sort of like he reminds you of like very anime.
He's like the anime kind of like I'm a hero with a dark past, kind of anime character.
But I'm always gonna be good looking no matter what, even if they like. Well, then they kind of like they're like, well, you know what, Raiden? Now he's all torn up in Metal Gear Solid 4, and he's half robot.
And he's like teen angsty. He was like very kind of like the first two he was like the first one he was very teen angst kind of like, even though he's a full grown adult, very kind of like, I'm just a tragic hero and I'm trying to find my place in the world. I'm a monster. Don't look at me. That's kind of like how he was. And then like, I never played.
I was a child soldier.
They call me Jack the Ripper. I didn't want to do it, but I did because I had to survive. He's very much kind of like that. And then there is I like kind of like when Solidus is giving his big monologue, evil bad guy speech. He's going like, "You were this cat, like put like like conspiracy that the Patriots, whatever. Oh, by the way, I killed your family." And the da-da-da thing right there, like, oh, by the way. If that other shit wasn't enough, I was the one that killed your parents. Let's fucking box.
Yeah. I got flame powers.
Oh yeah, that's funny. Right. He had like 2 swords. He was like Dr. Octopus with 2 swords with flame, like he just
and an eye patch.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things. He didn't even really run. He did like this weird, like he had remember those like skates, those like shoes that had wheels in it, so you can just kind of like roll. Like Dane Cook has them in that Employee of the Month movie.
Yeah, like I don't really want to walk, but I want to at least move.
Because he would just literally crouch down and just like he had these things on his feet. They just, yeah.
Did you get to the part in Metal Gear Solid 5 where you find Liquid?
No, I didn't.
Oh, dude, they literally what they kind of rip off of. It's not a bad thing, but it's like Liquid is pretty much like in Lord of the Flies. I mean, it has all these little elements of it.
Makes
where
sense.
he's sitting up on this boat like this with his arms behind his head like, yo, what up? And there's like this pig's head sitting right there and everything with a bunch of flies flying around it. And he's got all this little like, really looks like it's like slave camp because there's this white kid sitting on top of a boat and a bunch of black kids on the ground like guarding it for him.
Oh, okay. They can't throw in a few white kids in there just to mix it up. They got to make it the one.
And his name's the White Mamba.
Oh my god.
And then it's just funny because you go up there.
This is one of those things where it's just like when people start pointing races, like, oh, a Japanese guy made it. That wasn't a white guy. That was a Japanese guy. No.
And then like so you go in there and you like you sneak by or whatever all these like kids and I dropped a bomb on like the whole area so it like put them all to sleep. You can get a sleep bomb and you can drop it down. It kind of makes it easy to kind of go through. So I go up there. It's just funny because like he's like, hey, you're coming with me. And he's like, no, man, I'm staying here. It's like, whatever.
Is he British?
Yeah, he's got the British voice, and he's just like, meh. And he's got like this little like vest on. It says like something, no such thing as game over or something like that on the back, like almost like a video game thing. And it's just kind of funny because you're chasing him around this boat. He's got this like spear. You're like, get back here, boy! And you like start punching him and like kicking him on the ground and stuff. And you can sit there and shoot him with the tranquilizer gun.
Is he actually a little bit of a challenge?
It actually was more of a challenge than you thought. Like, he actually killed me once because he hit me with the spear, and I was on the ground, and whenever Snake gets on the ground, it's kind of like, that's it. I don't know what it is. Snake just has a hard time getting back up, especially if...
He's like a turtle.
Well, yeah, if you get, like, hit with a sniper rifle, and then you're on the ground, and you're laying there, and there's another guy there just, like, shooting at you, it's just like, that's it. Because by the time you finally stand up, you're probably dead. Mm-hmm. And the same thing happened, too. Like, I got tripped and knocked on the ground. By the time I stood up, I got stabbed with the fucking spear.
You know, everybody back at the base is kind of like, all right, so are we sure?
How did our fearless leader go down?
Are we sure that it wasn't like a whole armada and it just happened to be one kid in the circle? No, it was a kid with a spear. Are you sure? Was that just the killing blow and there's just a bunch of other people around him and they made him weary and the kid just got in there, got a lucky shot, spear to the chest? No, just a kid with a spear. I moved my whole life for this guy. He gets taken out by someone with a fucking spear, a kid with a fucking... It's like one of those things, kind of like, I sacrificed everything for this man. There was this legend built around, and like, are we going to hire the kid? Maybe. I don't know. I'm really at odds right now.
I woke up one morning and said, I need to change my life and do something with it. So I wrote a note, placed it on my like 5-month-old baby. It just said, going to meet Big Boss and join up on his team. It's the right thing to do. Bye. And I can't go back there now. Do you know what kind of an impact that probably made on my family?
He's on CNN. Breaking news. Big Boss, the most well-known soldier in the world, went out like a bitch.
10-year-old
you know? It's one of those things like, it's like one of those things like, yeah, I know we got standards and practices. I know there's the news, but really, people, this guy was killed by a kid with a spear. The same guy that took out a giant robot, multiple giant robots, same guy that took out the entire Russian army, got killed by a kid with a spear. Chew on that for a minute. Roll that around in your head, okay? Put that together.
Oh, 9 years ago, he survived a helicopter attack. He woke up from a coma 9 years later. 9 years later, he got back, got a prosthetic arm and everything, and he's back in the field doing the only thing he knows how to do, and he was killed by a 10-year-old boy with a spear.
There's shrapnel sticking out of his head. I'm not sure if I added that, by the way.
Yeah, it makes him look like some kind of like horn demon Hellboy.
Which but looks kind of cool, but killed by a kid with a spear.
So you got to pretty much run around and chase like. Well, the worst part about this is what happened after a while, and I was like, I got pissed because of half those kids that fell asleep that I left out there in the field. Because you can't like full-time like take away the children. You have to like load children into helicopters. God knows why. For some reason, a kid can't put them in. There's laws in the war that you can't put a kid on a balloon. So like they started waking up.
We can enslave them, but God forbid.
And now I'm running around chasing fucking liquid around on this boat, and now kids start shooting at me. I'm like, if I fucking die up here again by like a bunch of kids shooting at me trying to chase this little kid around a boat.
I think that's the one thing in video games, like the law, you can't. I think that's like one of the only laws that's still. Either they don't want to cross the line, or I think it's literally a law. You can't kill a child in a video game because murder simulator, whatever the fuck, however you want to look at it.
I know it's kind of like the next place for like a video game to kind of go is just. And I thought this game when I saw that at first I was like, holy fuck, you're gonna battle children? Like that's gonna be a ballsy thing to do in a video game. Mm-hmm. I mean, like in video games, we've gone from like you've killed civilians, you've killed innocent aliens, you've killed just all this different stuff, but you've
Jet Force Gemini, fuzzy people.
Yeah, you killed little furry creatures
They weren't
violently too.
humans. They weren't American.
Which that's the one thing is you've never been able to kill a kid or something like that. Which I'm just kind of surprised there hasn't been something like, and like even in like a Grand Theft Auto, even if there wasn't like children running around, but if there was just something like kind of mission where like you had to go, it's like almost like one of those kind of like maybe like make the scene dramatic. Don't make it like you're gonna go there and fucking kill this kid, but like one of those ones where like it would work well if a child soldier, like what do? He's got a gun pointed at you. Like it's either you pull the trigger, he goes away, or you die. Like you make the choice. Like one of those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Which I was wondering, what was I going to say real quick regarding something like this?
Which I guess technically here's
you
like,
could. I think
you can kill a kid in this game. It's not saying you can't. It's just you won't complete the mission.
You're punished. You're punished for it. There was like there was the Star Wars Episode 1 game for PlayStation where you could just go kill anybody when you go in Mos Eisley. Have you heard there's a murderer going around
like,
here? You got all these people firing at you.
My favorite part too is because you would kill, like that game had so many glitches, but it was almost like a Prometheus thing where it made the game better because of like kind of its misfortunes. So like you would like be like, have you heard about the murder? You'd slice it and be like, oh, well, as I was saying about the murder, and they just keep talking even though they're dead.
And I remember that one you could. There was like, I'm not saying when I turn on a game like I want to go kill some kids today, but that was a game where I was like, oh my god, you could actually kill kids. I think that was before there was like a real law, before there's all these problems with like Columbine and all that kind of shit. So before it's like, what's the big fucking deal? Now when you actually got a couple school shootings, like, oh yeah, let's take a backseat on this for a minute. Let's be very careful with this kind of shit.
Which I always kind of goes like, does it make a difference what kind of life it is? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know. I'm not saying. Yeah, I think that's what made.
I always feel like if you kill an animal or if you kill a human, it's all the same thing. There's no fucking difference. I mean,
I think it's just one of those things.
Killing no matter what.
I think it's one of those things because you don't see. I mean, every once in a while, you might see some like asshole from the NRA. Like it's not guns. It's fucking video games. You might still see that every so often.
Speaking of NRA, I have something funny. I was gonna like send you a picture of, but I thought it'd be weird if I took a picture of this. But like, there's a guy's truck I saw in Sonora. It made me laugh so hard. He had an NRA like big sticker on his truck, and then he had a Batman symbol. And I just could not help but bust up laughing. I'm like, oh my god, this guy's so I'm like, it's just like the last thing they'd be.
Maybe he's a very niche fan. He really likes the Thomas Wayne Batman from Flashpoint. Maybe it's like that one.
Well, it wasn't that bat symbol, so you could tell it's not that. But just one of those ones like, I'm not saying that Batman hasn't carried a gun at some point, but we all know that the whole thing of Batman is the guns is the weapon of your enemy. When it gets right down to it, it's the weapon of the weak. So now let's say the guy was a true NRA person and what he believed was that guns should be, in a sense, you should go through training and they shouldn't just be handed out to anybody, and there should be a certain respect that goes along with them too, and maybe he doesn't use them to kill, maybe he uses them for other stuff. You never know. If that was the case, maybe, but we all know that that's very far from the truth. Probably.
I feel like that's. I mean, I'm not saying that if we have any NRA listeners, don't take this the wrong way, but I feel like, at least what we see in the news, it's the like, yeah, I believe in guns. Well, why do you believe in guns? To keep the Jews off my lawn. To keep, I believe that's kind of like I think what comes to mind when you think you're standard. And I'm sure there are the couple NRA. I'm sure there are the NRA people. They're just like, look, I'm just be responsible with it. Use it as a last resort. I kind of understand. Yeah. There's the whole responsible ownership. But even like the fucking NRA themselves, right? When I'm not trying to get too dark here. I mean, it's, we already talked about some darker shit on this podcast, but I mean,
we're talking about child soldiers in Africa.
Yeah. So, I mean, whatever. We're in the same boat. Might as well keep going. Might as well see where this river goes. Might as well keep pedaling, see where this river goes. So, there was like when I want to say it was right when that one asshole lost it and just killed all those, went to that, I think it was wasn't a Mennonite school, but it was something. It happened 2 years ago, but it was it seems that something big like this almost happens to happen each year, unfortunately. But it was after one of those happened, the guy got up and started saying he started blaming every single thing but the guns. And he was saying, it's fucking movies, it's the fucking, it's video games, it's he's like, what we need to solve this problem is more fucking guns. Just like, oh, you mean this guy did because he got the guns legally.
Yeah.
The guy who bought the guns legally, and when I don't know. Now maybe somebody might just put on the comments. Well, actually, here's an article showing that he didn't get them legally, and it just or whatever the fuck. But but you get what I'm saying.
You can go down to Big Five and get a shotgun in 3 days and come out and shoot somebody the next day if you want to. It's America.
One of my favorite parts. One of my favorite bits ever in The Simpsons was when Homer was buying a gun and he says to the guy, he's just like, "Where's my gun?" "Oh, you got a 3-day waiting period. If I had my gun right now, I'd shoot you." "Yeah, well, you don't."
No. Well, I love that, like the guy at the gun store, like he probably hears that every other day.
He says, "Yeah, well, you don't. Like, it's not a big deal at all."
Well, yeah, Metal Gear Solid, child soldiers. Kids, you gotta shoot with a tranquilizer in the head.
I'm guessing the big finale of that game. Who knows? Might come up sooner, but I'm guessing the big finale. It's like, that's Solid Snake. It's kind of like probably that big that's the mic drop at the end of the game. Like, well, here's your other son or something like that.
Yeah, well, because when you capture Liquid, you drag him back and you go you let him kind of go hey, here's a place you can hang out. It's a better place than being out there on the battlefield. Something, education, good stuff.
We got a petting zoo.
Yeah, got a petting zoo. I'm really big on that part of it.
Even Punish Snake. That's my name now. It used to be Naked Snake. Now it's Punish Snake. Even Punish Snake kind of needs a minute. I just, I want a petting zoo. I want a pet. I didn't have one as a kid. Now, I just really don't fucking judge me.
Little boy, make sure that whatever you do, you don't get involved in these giant robot things because it's just war and havoc. And look at Master Miller. If you want to see a reason why not to go to war, look at this guy. He's a bitter old fuck right now.
I'm right here. It just pans over. He's standing right next to him on a crutch.
Yeah, it's like.
Oh, he's right behind me, isn't he? No, I'm to the left of you. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry, this eye patch.
Somebody pushes Master Miller over at some point when he's on his crutches and everything. I can't remember if it's one of those little black kids or something or another.
Oh, how sad. That's going to be sad, right? It's just somebody just pushed this crippled guy over, start kicking him on the ground like a bunch of little kids.
I remember this one. It's all right, well, Master Miller, I guess. Or Robert we got a new job for you. You're going to be in charge of the daycare.
Yeah. Make sure you give him all.
Snake's bringing back a lot of kids. He's really into children now. He's on this mission to save Africa by bringing them to Mother Base.
Give him all a high C. Can't we give him something that's organic and healthy? No, high C's cheap. I got a big case, 2 big cases.
Actually,
of
Snake says he likes Tang. Astronauts drank it on the moon, so he thinks that's pretty cool.
He's a mastermind on the battlefield. When it's the little things, they just blow his mind. It's the little things that really impress Snake.
I noticed further into the game, they finally started having more Snake lines, where he would question something. There was a couple of those later on, Metal Gear. I can't remember what the fuck it was, but they had some of those. So I was kind of glad to start seeing Snake say some more Snake-like lines.
Get on the horse. The horse.
Yeah, it's a tactical training horse. You can ride it in the battle. You can hide on the side of it while I get shot.
Oh. Okay. No, there is I just got the image of just fucking after a mission, Snake just walks in the child daycare, just all bloodied up, okay, who wants some Tang? Just comes walking in with
two giant pitchers.
Can we just? No one likes it. It's just, come on, it's good for you. It's Tang.
You want to be an astronaut someday? You don't want to be on the battlefield. Space is the future.
Oh, man.
This is how it turns out. It's Snake had so many adopted black children that he forgot his own 3 kids.
That's right. Yeah. That's a good point.
Liquid's hey, can I have some of that Tang? Later, out of here, boy. Me and the kids are hanging out.
Solid. Go sweep the deck. But can I just hang up and sweep it all day?
Solid.
Go sweep the deck.
And then Liquid, go make sure Solidus is cleaning the toilets. Gotta have a fresh one for for all these kids to use, their life was hard and difficult.
Solid's like, someday I'll be president, Dad. Yeah. You keep telling yourself that, boy.
Just like Big Boss is just this happy-go-lucky guy that's just like, the greatest guy in the world. Like when he's the number one guy you want backing you up on the field, but when he gets back to base, he's just like a weird, cheerful like father
He comes in like
300 kids that he keeps bringing home.
He goes the main development guy. We got that jungle gyms going. What? We got jungle gyms going. The kids need a playground.
But I thought
you'd be having fire guns all day. They need a playground out here.
But you wanted me to work on this Metal Gear for you. Metal Gear this, Metal Gear that. Everything's Metal Gear. Why don't you make a fucking jungle gym for once?
And a seesaw.
Yeah, seesaws are fun.
Make sure it's well balanced. No, nothing worse than like a non-well balanced seesaw, And also
one of those things, fat kids that sits on it and then nobody else can ride it.
Yeah, you gotta get at least other 6 kids to make it just lift off the ground. You know what I'm talking about, right?
They're like, Master Miller, go jump in the ball pit. I really don't want to. Come on, jump in the ball pit. Didn't just get this for no reason at all.
Kids, make him to the ball pit. No, just all the kids run over. They grab him. They'll like carry him and just drag him into the ball pit.
You could see why Master Miller decided to leave fucking Mother Base after this game. Because I feel like that's what the end of the game is going to be. Is like, why does Master Miller leave?
Bullied by children.
But pretty much, one, Snake never listened to what Master Miller had to say ever. It always did what Revolver Ocelot wanted him to do. And 2, got put in charge of the daycare.
That reminds me. This is off topic.
We're talking about like even a line too where Master Miller's like, I hate children. Like when you bring back the kids, he's like, I can't stand fucking kids. So it makes it 10 times funnier if he's in charge of the daycare.
One of the kids goes up like, Master Miller, look what I found. Holds up a picture of like Master Miller when he was younger, playing guitar with both hands. That's like this is gonna seem off topic for a second, but like just children being like cruel to like fucking adults. That like it's gonna seem off topic for a minute, but like this one time back in like middle school, there was this most fucked up thing I think I've ever seen. There is this old janitor guy. Me and some friends were hanging out. We were leaving, and somebody, it wasn't us, but somebody left like some trash on the ground, and the janitor guys is like, hey, you kids, you pick that up. And then like my friend just looks at him, wasn't me, but my friend just looks at him and goes, fuck you, that's your job. Walks away. This is like a guy who's in his 70s.
Those are always those things where it's just like, it's just like the worst thing that could, this guy's day, he literally has the shittiest. I really feel like the guy who's like the school custodian, especially for like the younger the kids are, like just the shit that he has to put up with day in, day out. And then when some fucking little kid tells him that it's his fucking job, it doesn't get any worse. And then walks off. It's like, literally, it's like that thing. It's like the janitor's like, well, what am I going to do? Nothing I can do. I can't strike this kid. The principal will never listen to me. He won't believe me.
After that, I just remember just like just the guy just looking there into space, like almost like a Spike Lee like face shot, slow zoom out, and then all of a sudden like just like the piano, ding, 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 you're just a memory, like slow pan away, then black credits.
It's just this guy's life. The janitor. Or the custodian, so it sounds more artsy.
Yeah. Janitor could be like a wild and wacky comedy. Custodian.
Yeah, the custodian sounds
Tears. Like, you're in for maybe some David O. Russell or maybe
Wrestler
some Darren Aronofsky type shit. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be pretty darn funny. Well, that's probably a good place to wrap up. I think we're getting close to the 2-hour mark, and if we go any farther, they will just go into farther territory of God knows what. Mm-hmm. But till then, check out oldmanorange.com. Make sure to check out Wallaby the Rabbit, our latest animation. And I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And we will see you some other time.
Later, folks.
check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. If you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks again, and tune in next week for more Old Man Orange Podcast.